back into it. Chapter 21. Peyton. I flinch at the tingling sensation in my temple. Not because it's painful to have a wound closed beneath the hands of a healer. No, it's the familiarity that hurts the most. The feel of my skin stitching back together only reminds me of when it was my father on the other end of that ability. Once, his nimble fingers were the ones to run over my every ache and gash earned during my long training sessions. And after he had healed me, or I'd helped him heal another, we would share a butterscotch to celebrate another day survived. Until he was gone, and now I've forgotten what that sweet tastes like. I shift on my bed, my body tingling with each pass of the healer's swift hands. Attempting to distract myself from the familiar feel of it, I stare instead at the late afternoon light spilling through so many surrounding windows. Kai hadn't left my bedroom until the early hours of the morning, leaving me to sleep most of the day away. He had tried to convince me to see a healer up until the moment I watched him slip out of the door, but I was far too tired to entertain the idea until this very moment, having stumbled out of the bath in a tremendous amount of pain. And with the ball looming only a handful of hours away, I forced myself to endure the ache of being healed by unfamiliar hands. Ellie bustles around the room, readying herself for the great deal of work that awaits. Having slept so late, I've left her with little time to make my damp hair and raw skin look presentable. I watch her quick movements, unnerved by the fact that we have yet to speak since Kai's late arrival in my rooms. "You're all set, miss." I startle at the man's deep voice beside me. "Yes, thank you," I manage to the healer, adding a quick nod and emphasis. He returns the gesture before making his way out of the room, leaving my healed body behind. With a sigh of relief, I stand to my feet, stretch my stiff limbs. It no longer feels like I nearly died yesterday, I say cheerily. In fact, I think I may actually be in the mood for dancing. Someone seems happy. Ollie pats the vanity chair with a smile, beckoning me to her. I sit before her, letting my eyelids flutter shut as she begins powdering my skin. I feel good, hopeful. I'm glad. Something about her tone has my eyes snapping open. And this good mood has nothing to do with I take a breath. With the enforcer. She hums, lips tucked into a thin smile. Ellie, there's nothing going on between me and... I trail off when she shakes her head at me. Peyton, I don't need to know about you and the prince. She chews on her bottom lip. I just hope you're being careful. Queens are not as easily forgiven as their kings. Her words are a much-needed reminder. My eyes fall on the ring still residing on my right hand, a detail Kit will not soon forget. The warm bath water has thoroughly cleaned it of the mud, leaving the promise to glint in my lap. With a deep breath, I slip it onto the correct finger. Ellie doesn't seem to notice as she continues with a soft smile of hers. But I enjoy seeing you giddy like this. It reminds me of Adina and her boyfriend Lute. My whole body stiffens beneath her hand, currently dragging a dark line of kohl atop my lashes. What are you talking about? I hear the hesitance in her voice, the quiet sadness that remains there. That's right. She never told you, did she? She lets the words linger. There was this boy she would sneak off to see while you were in the trials. My heart pounds in time with her words, aching like it has since the day Adina died. Why didn't she tell me? Ellie pulls back, allowing me to open the eyes now welling with tears. She didn't want to distract you from the trials. Her lips pull into a thin smile. She said she wouldn't rest until you met him and approved. So the plan was to tell you after, but then there was no after. I whisper, turning away with a shuddering breath. She was always too damn selfless. We fall silent as Ellie hesitantly returns to the task at hand. After a long while in which I dwell only within my thoughts, I manage to gather enough courage to peek at my reflection. But I don't recognize the girl within it. Her lashes are darkened, her lips tinted the color of blood. She looks like the sharpness that piercing grief hones into, like fearlessness carved out of necessity, not courage. I want her with me tonight, Adina, I say quietly, breaking the silence that has long stretched between us. Ellie nods in understanding and swings open the closet doors. Silver pools at my feet, cascading down the body above. Cool air brushes the low dip of my bare back. The dagger strapped to my thigh is more of a comfort than anything, as is the steel ring I spin on my thumb. So much has changed since the first time I wore this dress, and yet here I am again, walking toward a ball in honor of the trials I'm competing in. Only I've now gained a ring on my hand, cut the hair falling down my back, earned more scars I'm ashamed of, lost the girl who's made this very dress for me. I pull at the elegant shawl around my shoulders, ensuring it covers the O carved above my heart. Thankfully, Ellie hasn't questioned me when I requested to wear the silver wrapping. It ties elegantly beneath my breasts, draping over my shoulders while still covering the maimed skin I wish to hide. Kit nods as I approach the closed door to the ballroom. There's no denying how handsome he looks in his black suit. It's perfectly tailored to his body, contrasting against the blonde hair and golden crown atop his head. "You look lovely," he says evenly. I smile, trying to warm this frigid indifference between us. "Thank you, Kit. You look very handsome." He nods his thanks before offering me a stiff arm. I accept it, feeling more than a little awkward as I do. Kit doesn't waste a moment before tilting his chin toward the Imperials beside us. Understanding his silent request, they begin to open the massive doors. We wait, loosely joined at the elbows. The king looks down at our linked arms then, examining the bare fingers that fan around the crook of his elbow. I see your ring made it back to the correct hand." The doors groan on their hinges. My heartbeat quickens in its pace. I lift my free hand, flashing the diamond at him. This is the hand Ilya needs this ring to be on. The finger ordinaries needed to be on. Of course, I say evenly. After hiding it from the bandits, I must have slipped it onto the wrong finger in my delirious state. The slightest bite in my voice has him studying me curiously until the doors fall open. "Ready?" he murmurs. "Not in the slightest." And with that, we step out onto the balcony that overlooks the ballroom. Kit guides me to the railing and our bodies close. A sea of people stand below us, staring up expectantly. I haven't seen this view since my entrance to the final Purging Trials ball, and I can't say that I've missed looking down on every cold expression. "Good evening," Kit welcomes, his voice carrying across the length of the room. It's suddenly warmer when not directed at me. "Tonight we celebrate the success of Peyton Gray's first trial. She has achieved what few dare to do, bringing Marina Azur's crown back to its rightful home. And if Peyton continues to complete these trials, she will soon be wearing that crown herself." I struggle to stop from startling at the servant who suddenly appears beside me. Hesitantly, I accept the flute of champagne he offers, and watch as Kit does the same. "A toast," the king declares, lifting the glass out toward the crowd. They respond with the raising of their own champagne. He seems to clear a cough from his throat before finishing. "To Peyton Gray and the completing of this first trial." My murmured words are swallowed in the echoing crowd, but they are meant for no ears but my own, to surviving long enough to see the united Ilya. I lift the glass to my lips, swallowing the champagne in time with everyone else. The bubbles fizz on their way down my throat, crisp and sweet. Life resumes on the dance floor as we make our way down one of the emerald-padded staircases that lead to the marble below. Spirited music accompanies each of my steps, Kit's arm an anchor to keep me from taking a tumble down the stairs. When my heels hit the floor, I'm surrounded by a swarm of bodies, not for me, of course, but for the grinning king. Women of all ages flock to us, rambling about plagues knows what, while batting their lashes at him. I'm quickly shoved to his side, left to sip my champagne alone while Kit occupies his entourage. Annoyance quickly crawls across my features to redden my cheeks. I'm not upset by the women attempting to woo my betrothed, only that they're bold enough to do it in front of me. With that thought in mind, I begin to push my way through the gaggle to claim what is mine. Not out of jealousy, but as an act of power that I clearly need to establish. I reach for Kit, looping my arm through his. "Let's dance. I want to dance." The women seem to deflate at my words. Kit seems nearly as surprised as they are. "You do?" I flash him a bright smile, as though it can mend the relationship I left in shambles. "We are engaged, yes? It seems only right that we dance for the court." Kit contemplates this for a moment before deciding he doesn't have much of a choice. In silent agreement, we stride towards the dance floor. I throw back the rest of my champagne and set the empty flute on the nearby servant's tray, stomach warming from the alcohol. As I turn back to smile at the begrudging king I've dragged along, my gaze snags on a familiar shade of purple. Kit nearly slams into me with how abruptly I plant my feet. An emotion more potent than rage begins to boil within me at the sight of that lilac hair. Kit's mouth is moving, but I don't hear a word that falls from it. Instead, I'm standing at the edge of the dance floor, staring at Adina's murderer. It's as though I'm back in the center of that pit, cradling her broken body and my eyes locked on the culprit just as they are now. My feet are suddenly moving. I push through the clustered bodies and swaying couples, not caring that I'm striding through a dance. With each step, her features grow clearer. The long lilac hair that was tied in a strap, that final trial in the bowl. The brown eyes that had watched the branch plunge through Adina's chest. The painted lips that curled into a smile as she guided it there with a single murderous thought. And I'm going to tear her apart for it. I've nearly reached Blair by the time her gaze finally deigns to land on me, and I smile when it widens with an emotion that might just be fear. I lunge, teeth bared and arms outstretched, arms wrapped around my waist, tugging me back from her. I let out a cry of frustration as I fight against a familiar hold. Kai's lips are at my ear before my feet even meet the floor. Easy, Pei. You need to calm down. I claw at his arms, anger clouding my vision. It's not until another figure blocks my view of Blair that I still. Lenny's face hovers in front of mine, free of its usual imperial mask. Without the leather obscuring it, I can see the worry that clearly crinkles his brow. Peyton, you can't touch her, all right? His voice is part plea and part command. This isn't worth it. You're going to be queen. Think of what would happen if you tried to kill the general's daughter. If you tried to kill the general's daughter in front of your entire court. Kai's arms slacken around my waist, leaving me panting up at Lenny. It's not worth it, he says quietly. Please, don't make me stand between the two of you, because I will. His words have me taking a staggering step back. I shake my head at him. He must see every bit of hurt and hatred on my face because his falls into an equally torn expression. And yet he chooses to return to his spot at Blair's side. Her brown gaze flicks to mine, face placid in a way that makes it difficult not to shatter the facade with my fist. Keep her out of my sight, I order evenly, because you won't be able to stop me, Lenny. You know that. I'm walking away before a reaction can form on their faces. I hear Kai's long strides behind me, likely following to ensure I behave myself, but that is the last thing I want to do tonight. I grab a flute of champagne from a servant's tray and gulp down the liquid in a matter of seconds. Then I exchange that empty glass for a full one and do the same. Warmth spills into my stomach, coating my body into an intoxicating, fuzzy feeling. That is all I want to feel tonight. Not anger, not hurt, not queenly, just this contentment beginning to thrum through me. Do I even want to know what you were planning? Kai sighs when he towers over me. I give him a smile, noting the way it affects him. Then I shove my empty glass into his hand. I'm planning on having fun. Chapter 22. Kai. She lost her shoes. Well, she had. That was before I'd scoured the ballroom for them, knowing Peyton would not. Seeing that she flung them off her feet with a declaration of discomfort, I'm sure she was quite content to never find them. Now, swaying in time to the music, she hardly notices the heel dangling from my fingers. I lean against the pillar, watching her with a smile that has rarely left my lips all evening. Her familiar silver dress clings to the body beneath, rippling with each of her movements. She's hypnotizing, every laugh, every smile, every sway of her hips. Her cheeks are flushed pink beneath the strands of silver hair falling over her face, but despite her glistening skin, Peyton doesn't remove the thin shawl around her shoulders. And I may be the only one in this room that knows why. Lifting my eyes from where I know Father's parting gift to her lies beneath the fabric, I find her lifting yet another glass of alcohol to those distracting red lips. I push off the pillar, halting her arm before the liquid can slip down her pretty throat. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I may need to cut you off for the night. Her eyebrows rise comically, every movement exaggerated. You cutting me off? She leans closer, tilting her head at me. That seems a bit ironic. Trust me, darling, I sigh. I'm well aware. She waves her glass at me, sloshing champagne over the brim of it. Aren't you the one who loves to get drunk at these boring balls? With her free hand, she shoves a finger into my chest. Then you'd beg for a dance with me and occasionally unlace my dress afterward. I chuckle at her sly grin. You know why I did that. Yes, but what I don't know, she says innocently, is why you haven't since. Are you? I shake my head at her in disbelief. Are you flirting with me, Gray? She giggles in a way I've never heard her do before, but would beg to again. I'm simply thinking out loud. Now it's my turn to tilt my head at her. Then I would certainly like to hear what else you are thinking. Why aren't you drinking with me? She shoots back with a mischievous grin. Someone has to look after you. She takes a step closer. I have a fiancé. And yet, I dangle the heels in front of her. I'm the one carrying your shoes. Though I am worried about what it is you'll be taking off next. This has Pei laughing loudly. Her teeth are bright against red lips, and I can do nothing but study the unbridled brilliance of that smile. Why? Because I won't let you help? I shrug a shoulder, my eyes darting across the packed room. Because I don't like to share. This seems to still her for a moment, at least long enough to take a slow swig of champagne. Then her eyes are pinned on that sparkling ring, even while returning my shrug. Well, you have plenty of time to get used to it. I'm not even drunk, but her words are sobering. They cut right through me, the reminder a slap to the face. Because I will forever be sharing her in a secret, in the shadow of her marriage to my brother. That thought alone has me dropping her forgotten shoes and snatching the glass from her hands. In one swift movement, I down the stolen liquid, savoring its sweetness on my tongue. Her eyebrows rise as a laugh tumbles from her mouth. Changed your mind about keeping an eye on me, I wave over the servant, grabbing 2 more flutes of champagne from his tray. Oh, I still have my eyes on you when I'm drunk, darling. And that is exactly the problem. Taking the glass I extend, she gives me a wry look. And why would that be a problem? I lean toward her to murmur, we're supposed to be keeping our distance, remember? I have enough trouble doing that when I'm sober. Something about the way she's looking up at me has already made it difficult to think straight. This version of Peyton seems to be even more dangerous than the one who unflinchingly holds a blade to my throat. Alcohol emboldens, loosening her lip to spew sober thoughts. And truthfully, I'm not sure how to hold myself back from a Peyton who so brazenly pursues me. In fact, she might even be making me nervous. I'm unused to the feeling. In that case, her voice is a lazy drawl as she presses her fingers to the bottom of my glass, lifting it to my mouth. Even as she tips the glass against my lips, our gazes never roam from each other. Let's test that control of yours, enforcer, she croons, handing her own champagne to me. I sigh before sipping generously from her glass. Is that not what you've been doing since the day we met? She clicks her tongue. I won't be charmed by your pretty words, Prince. The crown of my mouth curls into a wicked smile. The corner of my mouth curls into a wicked smile. Seems a bit late for that, doesn't it? Cocky bastard, she whispers. Pretty Pay. I admire her for a long moment, desperately wishing we were the only ones in this room, wishing there was no audience, no rules to follow. She seems to be thinking the same thing, because with a huff, she grabs the glass from my hand and finishes off the champagne. I want to dance, she declares, face flushed. I slip my hands into the pockets of my dark pants. Well, you have to ask me properly. And what makes you think I want to dance with you? I can't think of a reason you wouldn't want to, actually. Her smirk sharpens before she turns back on me. Her smile sharpens before she turns her back on me and calls, Jax! A lanky figure across the room whips around at the sound of his name. When his gaze lands on a waving Peyton, his face splits into a grin. He hurries over, his long strides carrying him quickly through the crowd. Hi, Peyton, he says, this cheerily enough to disguise the nerves rattling his voice. Hello, Jax, she smiles at him. I catch the nervous bob of Jax's throat. I've missed you. Really? Of course, she extends her hand. Now let's dance. Jax's eyes widen. Peyton, on the other hand, shoves her empty glass into my palm. Then she's throwing a smug look over her shoulder while pulling my little brother onto the dance floor. I shake my head at her bare back, watching that silver dress ripple behind Jax in tow. It's not long before I'm chuckling at the two of them attempting to dance. They've barely managed a series of steps without stumbling, and Pei can't stop laughing long enough to even try. Instead, she seems to have abandoned the choreography accompanying the song and is now doing whatever the hell she wants. Picking up her shoes, I return to my spot against the pillar, leaning there as I watch them spin around the room. As they smile brightly, their laughter cuts through the commotion of the room, reaching even my ears. It reminds me of a time when we used to laugh like that all the time. Kit brushes my shoulder as he rounds the pillar. I glance over at him with a shake of my head. You read my mind. He sounds tired. I miss enjoying these balls. As do I. I stare out at the dance floor. At least someone is having a good time. He takes a sip of his drink, eyes following Peyton's spinning figure. She seems so happy. Well, I sigh. Half a dozen glasses of champagne will do that to a person. Kit snorts. So she's taking a page out of your book for the night. It would seem so. I crack a smile. But she's definitely doing it better. I would have stolen a bottle or something stronger and staggered off to my room by now. And I would follow, Kit adds. Because I refuse to endure a ball if you aren't suffering with me. I shake my head, smiling at the floor. The good old days, huh? Oh yes, he blows out a breath. I wish these balls were our biggest concern now. I'm not sure what compels me to say it, even the words taste bitter. I wish they were my biggest concern then too. But I was busy being cut open by our father. I can feel his shocked gaze roaming my face. Kai, I can't tell you how sorry I am about that. What he was to you, what he put you through, was just so different from the man I knew. Guilt twines and sway around me as I immediately regret the words. Taking a breath, I look into his eyes. Father's eyes. I only say to remind you of how much better you can be, how much better you've already become. His eyes light with an emotion I can't quite make out. I want to be better. Hell, I want to be great. And you will be. My hand meets his shoulder, shaking it slightly. I'm with you until the very end. His voice is a murmur, earnest as the gaze he pins on me. You and me, brother. You and me, I repeat. We share something then, a smile, a moment of understanding, a repairing of a bond once strained. It's taken much grief and anger to get here, but I'm proud to say that my brother has returned to me. This is the Kit I know and love. This is the friend I'll spend the rest of my life with. This is the man who is marrying the woman I love. I push the thought away. That was too depressing a topic for a ball. We should be attempting to have fun. Kit nods to the dance floor. I think the two of them are having enough fun for the both of us. Indeed they were. Jax and Peyton had yet to stop causing a scene with their incessant spinning. Has it been 3 dances? If they have any more, the court may begin to think that our little brother is trying to steal away your betrothed. Oh, I doubt that's the brother they're worried about, Kit says evenly. Here we go. I have rehearsed my rebuttal to this touchy subject. Clearing my throat, I ensure it is only those soft, practiced words that fill the air between us. I don't want to get in the way of you two. It's the truth. I have no desire to be a wedge driven between them, but that is what I am, and I will not stop loving her because of it. Kit chuckles, and I'm slightly startled by the sound. It is not you who's getting in the way. I don't have a chance to ponder his words. He moves on quickly, avoiding any further discussion on the matter, and some cowardly part of myself is thankful for it. Andy seems to be enjoying the show. Scanning the crowd, I find her familiar wine hair among the throng of bodies. I can see her body shaking with laughter from here, one hand pressed to her mouth while the other curls around her pretty dance partner. My eyes quickly flick over the crowd to land on a shock of lilac hair. Pressed close to Blair is the tall redhead I know to be Peyton's friend. It was risky having Blair here, you know. The queen-to-be nearly tore her head off in front of the whole court. The words have Kit taking a drink. Oh, I know. But I need to somehow acclimate the two of them. He coughs quickly into a curled fist. I can't keep them separated forever, and I certainly can't have my queen attacking the people in this castle. My queen. It's the way he says the words that has me tensing, and it's precisely the reaction he was looking for. Aside from my subtle flinch, I keep my expression blank and gaze forward. No, you can't have that. Turning to face him, I lower my voice, adding, but if I know anything about your queen, it's that she will always find a way to survive or to kill, and I'm not sure anyone can outlive Peyton's wrath. My eyes flick to the dancing couple, a lilac-haired girl in the arms of my Imperial. Kit nods. I don't doubt that. You know her better than I do, better than you once knew me. I would know you in every life, brother. My words are hurried. I step out in front of him, facing my other half fully. More than any other soul. Believe that. He smiles, a slow, relieved moment. His hand clutches my arm as he ducks his head, hiding the emotion shining in those green eyes. And you. I loose a breath, feeling the tension flee from my body. This is the brother I know, the bond I know to have with him, and I cannot bear to lose that. Are those her shoes? I follow Kit's gaze to where the heels dangle from my hooked fingers. My laugh is muffled by the hand I run down my face. She took them off about 2 glasses of champagne ago. The king's gaze crawls over my shoulder. Speak of the devil. I turn slowly toward the dance floor, and there she is, striding towards us with a dazzling smile between rosy cheeks. I'm breathless at the sight of her, doomed by the hope of having her. It's a beautiful ruin, a devastating devotion. This girl holds my heart in her hands, could crush it between her fingers, and still have me thanking her for the touch. And I hold her shoes. Chapter 23. Peyton. My blood feels bubbly. I'm light and heavy all at once, the spreading warmth beneath my skin hypnotizing. I've never felt so carefree, so unbothered by life and rules and hopes and failures. What was I thinking? My head spinning. Not in a particularly unpleasant way, but fast enough to routinely dump the thoughts from my head. It doesn't help that the rest of me has been spinning for a length of time I don't care to determine at the moment. I finally untangled myself from Jax's long legs after dancing, or something loosely resembling that, between the staring court members. Because I've set my sights on something equally as fun. The boys lean against a pillar, black suits stark against the marble stone, and I can't focus on anything else because holy shit, they look good. I can feel my smile growing as I walk toward them in as straight of a line as I can manage. They're a pretty pair, the Azure brothers, and I have the rest of my life to spend with them, married to one and in love with the other. That bleak thought is one of many I'd hoped the numerous glasses of champagne would ward off, but like all the others, the thought is fleeting, as is the urge to rip Blair's head off for now. I'm suddenly standing before the king and his enforcer, Kit and Kai, betrothed and regrettably not betrothed. My tongue feels loose and dry, and where the hell are my shoes? I ignore all of this to say, why aren't you two having fun? It's Kai's voice who answers, voice enticing in a way I certainly wouldn't refuse at the moment. Are we supposed to dance with Jax as well? Kit chuckles when I smile loosely, tilting my heavy head. I want him to laugh at my words like that. I want him to want to spend time with me, or something like that. No, I'm sure you've already done that, so I've come to ask you to dance. Well, that's an interesting idea. I'm scared what words will fall from my mouth next. Whatever I say is a shock to even myself. Kai shakes his head, and I thought you couldn't surprise me any further tonight. When the enforcer's gaze meets mine, the king returns to his frustrating stoicism. Yes, I would very much like for us to be friends again. His words are clipped. Me or Kai? I think I hear myself giggle. Yes. And with that, I'm grabbing them both by the arm. I don't bother trying to comprehend their persistent protests as I drag them toward the dance floor. The sea of people parts for us, amused enough to turn to their neighbor and gossip. When I halt in the center of the dance floor, I turn to the boys. As future queen, I hereby instate a new tradition. I might have yelled the word, oops! Kai is now pinching the bridge of his nose, swallowing the laugh in his throat. Plagues, I hope you remember this tomorrow. Chapter 23. Peyton. My blood feels bubbly. I'm light and heavy all at once, the spreading warmth beneath my skin hypnotizing. I have never felt so carefree and unbothered by life, and rules, and hopes, and failures. What was I thinking? My head is spinning. Not in a particularly unpleasant way, but fast enough to routinely dump the thoughts from my head. It doesn't help that the rest of me has been spinning for a length of time I don't care to determine at the moment. I finally untangled myself from Jax's long legs after dancing, or something loosely resembling that, between the staring court members. Because I've set my sights on something equally as fun. The boys lean against a tall pillar, black suits stark beside the marble stone, and I can't focus on anything else because holy shit, they look good. I can feel my smile growing as I walk towards them in as straight of a line as I can manage. They are a pretty pair, the Azure brothers, and I have the rest of my life to spend with them, married to one and in love with the other. That bleak thought is one of the many ones I'd hoped the numerous glasses of champagne would ward off, but like all the others, the thought is fleeting, as is the urge to rip Blair's head off, for now. I'm suddenly standing before the king and his enforcer, Kit and Kai, betrothed and regrettably not betrothed. My tongue feels loose and dry, and where the hell are my shoes? I ignore all this to say, why aren't you two having fun? It's Kai who answers, his voice enticing in a way I certainly wouldn't refuse at the moment. Are we supposed to dance with Jax as well? Kit chuckles while I smile loosely, tilting my heavy head. I want him to laugh at my words like that. I want him to spend time with me, or something like that. No, I'm sure you've already done that. So I've come to ask you to dance. Well, that's an interesting idea. I'm scared what words will fall from my mouth next. Whatever I say is a shock to even myself. Kai shakes his head, and I thought you couldn't surprise me further tonight. When the enforcer's gaze meets mine, the king returns to his frustrating stoicism. Yes, I would very much like for us to be friends again. His words are clipped. Me? Or Kai? I think I hear myself giggle. Yes. And with that, I'm grabbing them both by the arm. I don't bother trying to comprehend their persistent protests as I drag them towards the dance floor. The sea of people parts for us, amused enough to turn to their neighbor and gossip. When I halt in the center of the dance floor, I turn to the boys. As future queen, I hereby instate a new tradition. I might have yelled the word. Oops. Kai is now pinching the bridge of his nose, swallowing the laugh in his throat. Plagues, I hope you remember this tomorrow. Shh. I'm making a decree, I scold. Kit might have smiled. We're listening, Peyton. I like that he said my name. That feels like progress. I clear my throat, ignoring the many wide gazes surrounding and... I feel like I should be taller for this. Establish my strength and such. So where the hell are my heels when I actually need them? I declare, I say slowly, my spine straightening, a dance between the three of us, unified as one. I don't even give them the chance to argue. How very queenly of me. I'm wrapping an arm around each of them and swaying to the lively music. This is the fun I wanted. This will bring us together. What better way to force the king into friendship with me? I laugh, and plagues, have I ever laughed so much? A safe bet would be no. I have never laughed so much, and I think it may be the very reason that it gets the boys' feet to move with me. They share a single glance. It's that brotherly bond that can never be broken, except by perhaps me, but that was a grim thought. That has them communicating in a language I can't hear. And the silent conclusion they come to is clearly for my benefit. Not rooted in pity, no, but in caring. Kai for me, and Kit for Kai. Soon enough, their arms weave around my back, wrapping around each other. We spin in our makeshift circle with a series of steps we desire. I'm pulled and spun and laughing louder by the minute. They laugh with me at me too, but I don't care. This is a happiness I'm willing to sacrifice my dignity for. We break out of our circle, dancing however we please. I'm spun between them, passed from arm to arm. I barely even notice the groups of people beginning to dance beside us, following our lead. Cluster of bodies spin and dance among themselves, laughing at the informality of it all. And I dare say it's the most fun this court has ever seen. Teetering on my toes, I throw both arms over the king and his enforcer's shoulders, beaming at them at the room around us. There's so much beauty and chaos, and I'm being lifted off the ground. I squeal when arms wrap around my waist and hoist my feet off the floor. I'm now a foot taller than the boys holding me up, and this is exactly the height I wish to be when making my impulsive decree. I look down to my left. Kit, crown crooked, atop blonde hair, smile shockingly wide, a demeanor that of the boy I befriended long ago, and the one I'd betrayed. I see hope when I look at him in this moment, a blooming companionship. I look down to my right, Kai, black hair curling over his brow, eyes bright and dimples that I curse beneath my breath. But above all, love. It lingers in his gaze, in his touch, down to the very curve of that smile I know belongs to me alone. The room spins around me, and it's him I focus on, him I cling to, long after our dance and long into the next life. The night passes in a form of hazy flashes. My mouth hurts from smiling, my feet ache from dancing. But I'm not on my feet in this flashing moment. No, I'm in strong arms, pressed against a broad chest, smiling up at a handsome face. He tells me to stop looking at him like that. My voice sounds far away. And how am I looking at you? He says I'm looking at him like a promise I can't keep. This confuses me. Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it makes perfect sense. I want to tell you a secret, but I'm scared of it. He offers to say it for me. I nod. I notice what is hooked around his fingers dangling from the hand beneath my knees. You found my shoes! He whispers the three-worded secret. You found my shoes for me. Another murmured declaration of devotion. Tears prick my eyes. You found my shoes for me. He says he loves me, again and again. I cover my face with a pillow, smothering out the light. Groaning, I roll over, nearly slipping off the side of the bed. My head pounds as I dare to peek open an eye and instantly regret it. Sunlight has long since poured into my room to bathe the bed in warmth, as if the rays wished to caress my cheek. Throwing the covers over my aching head, I happily hide from the world beyond. Except the world beyond begins to speak. You know, I bet noon, but Kai was confident on 2 hours past that. That was a familiar voice. He was right. I suppose I should have listened. He does know you far better. I wouldn't give him too much credit, I grumble from beneath the sheets. It'll go to his head. Gathering my courage, I slowly peel back the fort I've buried myself beneath and squint at the painful light. I know by voice alone who occupies this room with me, but that doesn't make it any less shocking when I see his green eyes and tousled blonde hair. He's in my room. Shocking still, he came to see me. I don't remember much of last night, but I must have done something right. Now I just need to ensure I don't ruin this progress. I scramble into sitting position as Kit so obviously points out. Champagne's not nearly as fun in the morning. My heavy eyes land on where he sits beside my bed. The king is watching me closely, and all I can manage is a weak. My head is pounding. That, he says slowly, I expected. So I had Gale mix this up for you. He grabs a glass from my bedside table, swirling the murky liquid within it. I try my best not to seem shocked by his kind gesture, but it's difficult to ignore the hope swelling in my chest. That looks terrifying, I finally croak. What is it? His smile is worrisome. It's best if you don't know, but it'll make you feel better, trust me. I cut him a skeptical glance after peering at the liquid. He inclines his head, urging me to drink. But as soon as I press the glass to my lips and tip my throbbing head back, I immediately regret it. The taste can only be described as foul, and I'm momentarily considering spitting the grainy texture out. No, don't give it up yet. The corner of Kit's mouth kicks up, and that alone keeps me going. Hastily gulping down the rest of the vile liquid, I push the cup into his hand. With a sputtering cough, I physically shudder. That was awful. Gale's hangover remedy is not for the weak, let me tell you. His gaze grows distant. Kai and I have endured it many times over the years. I'm handed a glass of water next, which I eagerly drain in the hopes it'll rid me of the horrid taste in my mouth. The king watches me closely, looking far from the title with how casually he sits beside me. How are you feeling? I assess myself before determining. Better, actually. Thank you. I feel annoyingly awkward. I didn't think you'd come to see me. Someone had to ensure you were still alive up here, he says simply. I'm glad you cared to check. There was a long pause. It's as though he hadn't considered that to be true. Then comes this curt change of subject. I'm addressing the court today about your next trial. I straighten. Already? Kit nods. Testing your benevolence will take longer than your bravery, so I'm getting you started sooner. I'll be in another trial within the next few days. The words are deafening, and yet I can hardly whisper them. I hardly whispered them. A familiar sense of panic eats away at my composure. I may have completed the first trial, but that does not guarantee I'll make it out of this one alive. And just as I have been my entire life, I'm afraid. At least you're plenty rested, Kit offers. I lean my head against the wall where it continues to ache dully. When did I get back to my room last night? Nearly 5 a.m, he states. Kai carried you up here. I practically wince at his words. There's no bite to him, and that almost makes it worse. Talk of Kai has always been, and always will be, unbearably awkward. So I attempt to avoid it. Plagues, how much did I drink? Enough to not remember, I assume. I blow out a breath. Yes, it's all very blurry. I remember bits and pieces of the ball. Cutting him a glance, I add, well, I certainly remember why I started drinking in the first place. The sight of Blair flashes in my mind, managing to boil my blood even now. I'm sorry that her being there was so upsetting, Kit states, not sounding too torn up about it, but I need you to get used to her being around. I can't simply make her disappear. Oh, I could. There's not a hint of a smile on my face. Allow me, please. Allow me, please. You know that's not possible, Peyton. He runs a hand down the back of his neck. But you seem to be having fun despite her being there. Even managed to get the court to have a good time, and that is no simple feat. Yes, the dancing, I say slowly. My feet are sore. Well, I hear you discarded your shoes rather quickly. He nods to the heels that are hastily strewn beside my bed. I stare at them, a memory straggling to the surface at the sight, but before I have a chance to recall, Kit is standing at his feet. You made another decree as well. Very impressive. I laugh. Don't mock me. That almost manages to earn me a smile before he clears his raspy throat and stands. I'll send Ellie in to get you ready. I have a meeting to get to. He points to the bedside table, drawing my attention to what sits there steaming in the sunlight. I hadn't noticed the bowl in my foggy state. Kai said you might want some of that. Again, he knows you rather well, so I took his word for it. Despite myself, I smile at the porridge decorated with fruit that Kai despises. Blueberries sitting among the steaming oats, reminding me of that long night under the willow. Thank you, I murmur, lifting my eyes to his, for bringing it to me. He gives me a quick nod of his head, then he coughs into an ink-stained fist. You have 2 hours. I'll see you at the throne room then. Stepping out of the door, he's quickly replaced with Ellie. I scarf down the porridge while she readies the room, eyeing me from afar. What is it, Ellie? I finally ask between bites. Nothing, she answers quickly. I'm just happy you're feeling better. You were very out of it when Prince Kai dropped you off last night. I feel my cheeks redden. Yes, not my finest moment. He insisted on staying in here with you. She glances over at me bashfully. Said he would sit in that chair until he was sure you were asleep. I swallow. And did he? Yes. Her voice is quiet. And long after. We fall silent after that, setting our focus on the task at hand. After a cool bath that further wakes me, Ellie ensures I look presentable in record time. She's pinning half of my damp hair up with the exception of a few pieces that fall around my powdered face. Next, I step into an elegant green gown behind the screen. The drooping sleeves and high neckline cover my scars, following the requirements I'd given Ellie for any future dresses. Shoving on my heels, I'm hit once again with the fleeting memory at the sight of him. But Ellie is pushing me out the doors before I have the chance to ponder it any further. I set a steady pace down the hall, passing the many emotionless Imperials lining it. They stare, and I stare back. Soon enough, I'm throwing my arm through Kit's and watching the large doors swing open. When I look over at him, he nods slowly, and then we're stepping into the throne room. The same eyes that watched me last night are watching me now. We walk between the throng of people on either side, faces forward. Reaching the dais, Kit guides me up before we turn as one toward the court. His fingers reach for mine, lacking the hesitancy he shows in private. And this is for show, not for feelings. Ladies and gentlemen of the court, today we gather in honor of Peyton Gray's second trial, Kit announces, voice steady. As you and the rest of Ilia know, she successfully retrieved Marina Azur's lost crown. After proving her bravery, she will now prove her benevolence. A second of the 3 Bs, Kit continues, benevolence has proven difficult in the past, due to our isolation from neighboring cities. But with our borders now open, we must extend peace to the kingdoms. This will take more than a letter detailing Ilia's changes. It will require action. My eyes skim over the crowd, finding Callum among the unfamiliar faces. He's smiling slightly at Kit's words, pleased with every one that leaves his mouth. Beside him stands a girl I haven't seen since the resistance meetings at my old home. Her hair is the same blonde as her father's, eyes nearly as blue. Mira. When she catches me staring, I'm barely offered a nod, let alone a smile. This is hardly surprising. We weren't particularly close, and I'm not sure she would give me a grin even if we were. I turn my attention back to the king when he glances over at me. It's a fleeting look that just might resemble an apology. For that reason, Kit declares, Peyton will be traveling across the shallow sea to befriend the city of Isram and open future trade agreements between us. My sharp inhales drowned out by the clapping crowd. Of course they're clapping. No one has crossed the treacherous stretch of water in years, and I may not make it back if I dare test the unforgiven sea. That is why they cheer. Peyton will inform Isram of our open borders and negotiate peace. Kit continues his speech, but I hear none of it. No, my eyes land on Kai's before running over his frigid body. Fear pulls at his features, and when he dares to meet my gaze, I'm faced to once again wonder why I ever bothered looking at anyone else. Those icy eyes drag over my body, feeling heavier than a touch, more meaningful than a word. I revel in his reverence. That is, until it lands on the fingers I've laced between his brothers. A muscle feathers in his jaw. I can see the anger seeping out from beneath the unbothered mask he slipped on. So he looks away. He turns. He strides from the throne room. And I can feel myself beginning to drift without him to anchor me. Chapter 24. Kai. I pace the worn rug, doing the same thing I've done when it was father sitting behind that desk. Kit leans back in his chair with a sharp clearing of his throat. Sensing the tension, Essel steps forward to offer, There is no alternative. This is what the court wants. This is a death wish, I bite out. That is why they want her to do it. Not to prove her benevolence, but to die trying. It's Callum who speaks next, though I don't bother looking in the mind reader. I have faith that Peyton can do this, and traveling to Isram will impress the people far more than finding that crown. I shake my head, failing to hide my frustration. Damn pretending, damn these trials. Kit already suspects that my alliance to Peyton runs far deeper than me being her enforcer. All of this for what? To deliver some damn roses? Essel draws a breath. Isram struggles to grow them due to their sandy soil, and roses are used to treat illnesses. It's the first thing she's said since striding into the study and taking a seat beside the fireplace. At the sound of Peyton's voice, I turn to look at her, finding those blue eyes already pinned on me. I was the daughter of a healer once, she continues simply. I know of the benefits and high demand for the flower. Kit nods in agreement to her words. This gift would be beneficial to Isram, a physical peace offering of shutting off trade with them. Queen Zayla has yet to hear of our open borders, so it would be Peyton who reintroduces Ilya as an ally. And the shallows, I ask, exasperated, the things that lurk within it? I'm suddenly bracing my palms on the desk, leaning forward as I say to Kit, Kit, you know Jack's parents died in a shipwreck over that sea. That was the very last time anyone publicly tried to make the trek. I know. Kit's voice is suddenly stern. Of course I remember what happened to Jack's parents, but times have changed. Ships have evolved. Tellus and Hydros will be on board. Extra precautions have been made. He pauses. Peyton will be safe. Essel's long mint hair continues to come into view beside Kit's desk. As for what supposedly lurks within the shadows, we have no way of knowing if those myths are true or not, but rest assured the ship will be equipped with weapons and plenty of elites. That finally has Peyton standing from her seat, unsurety slanting her brows. What myth? I gesture to the court's spokesman. You're the one sending her on this journey, so why don't you tell her? He obliges, though, slightly hesitant. It has been said that the plague may have altered animals. There are stories of enhanced creatures, bigger, faster, stronger than before. Because of that, many believe there is some creature living in the shallows. A beast that belongs to the sea, I finish for him, turning my attention back to Peyton. My words seem to have hit her with sudden realization. Her eyes are pinned on the carpet, her head shaking slightly. The bats. What? Callum asks, stealing the question from my lips. The bats, she repeats distractedly. There were these massive bats in the cave above that crypt. I remember thinking there was something unnatural about them. Her eyes find Callum's. Do you think they were genetically mutated? He inhales deeply, tucking tanned arms behind his back. It's definitely possible. The scholars have collected evidence themselves, though they don't publicly speak on it. But that doesn't mean this sea creature is anything more than a bedtime story. Yet another thing I haven't gotten a chance to learn on the streets of Loot. Peyton huffs out a laugh, the sound cutting. I really am unordinary, even to animals. I catch the slight hardening of Callum's face, likely in response to the bitter way she speaks about herself. Are you up for this journey, Peyton? I didn't realize I had a choice, she answers earnestly. But if this is what the people need of me. Essel nods solemnly at her words. Then I will do it, she finishes. I'm going with her. There's no hint of hesitancy in my voice. It's a demand, a compromise I won't negotiate. Even worse, I don't care if my worry for her seeps into the words. I will follow her to the bottom of the sea if I must. Kai, you can't be serious. Kit starts, sounding betrayed. I'm not just your enforcer, I state. I'm now Peyton's as well. And if there is one thing Father and Sure I had learned, it was to never let my king and queen face danger unless I was between it and them. I can feel Peyton's wide gaze roaming over me, and I don't dare let my eyes stray from Kit. He studies me long enough to have Callum begin filling the silence. The king needs his enforcer there. Cutting him off, it's Kit I speak towards. What do you think that crew will do to their ordinary queen? My voice drops as I murmur. It wouldn't surprise me if they tried to throw her overboard the second that ship reaches open water. Call it a freak accident, I shake my head. But not if I'm there. No one will dare touch her. And if you weren't so damn important, brother, I know you'd be on that ship with her. But we can't risk losing you, so risk me instead. I'll ensure the crew behaves, Kit challenges. Threats won't stop them from throwing her overboard and returning with a tale about how the future queen ran off to Isram. I counter quietly. Kit, Peyton is suddenly beside me, her palms pressed against the wood desk. I wish it was you coming with me. The words sting more than I expected they would. Even knowing this is another moment of pretend, I feel a twinge of hurt in the heart I've already given her. But you have a kingdom to rule, she continues steadily, and if you want me to return to it, I need some protection. After a long moment of scrutinizing, Kit finally tears his eyes away. All right, he says, voice hushed. Kai will go with you. I nod curtly, despite my sudden relief at his words. I'll ensure she makes it back to you. I'm sure you will. When do you leave? When do we leave? Paye cuts in, sensing the slight tension. It's Essel who answers. Day after tomorrow. Early. You're making the right decision, Kit, I swallow, for your future bride. Everything inside me recoils at the words, but I utter them all the same. He seems to notice how much it pains me, but he plays along, giving a slow nod to the door. You two have some packing to do. Not a very subtle dismissal, but I can't say I'm surprised, so I take the hint along with my leave. Reaching the curved staircase, I climb the steps 2 at a time, following the familiar route toward my room. My pace is even, hopes oddly high for someone who may be sailing to their death, but I'm no stranger to drowning. I've done just that since the day I've looked into her ocean eyes. A power shifts beneath my skin, growing stronger with each step. It feels familiar, harsh in the same way it has since we were children. I know who awaits me even before I round the corner. Her lilac hair is braided loosely down the back of her simple blouse. It's jarring seeing Blair look anything but lethal, yet here she stands, face free of its usual dark makeup and clothes surprisingly plain. What are you doing here? I ask as a way of greeting. She raises a dark brow. What am I doing outside my door? My smile is sharp. Why aren't you behind it? Oh, I see, she says this with much more of a hint of disdain. You're asking because apparently I'm no longer allowed to set foot outside of my own room. A slight pout forms on her lips. We can't have our future queen hurting herself trying to kill me. I run a hand down my face, already exhausted by this conversation. What are you doing out here, Blair? I thought Lenny gets you everything you need. Not everything, unfortunately, she sighs. If you must know, I was sharpening my knives. You know, for throwing at little children outside my window, her eyes roll, or whatever other twisted hobbies you think I enjoy. I gesture lazily to the door. Get back in there, please. Her gaze travels over me. It seems the slumber taught you some manners. How ironic. Don't, Blair, I warn. So will you share her with Kit the rest of your life, or find another ordinary in the streets? The words have barely left her mouth before I snap. I throw her back against the wall with nothing but my mind and the use of her borrowed telepower. She gasps in surprise, straining slightly beneath my hold on her body. No elite appreciates their own power being used against them, but I have little concern for her feelings at the moment. Each step toward her pinned body is slow, deliberate. The glare she gives me is dull, seemingly unconcerned by our current situation, but when I loom over her, she fights to tilt her head up and meet my icy stare. Talk about her like that again, I murmur slowly, and you will be begging to stay locked in that room, safe from me. Something about her gaze gradually softens in the seconds after my threat, and that concerns me. Shit, she breathes, mouth gaping. Her Her lashes flutter as she stares up at me, equally shocked and amused. You're in love with her. I step back abruptly, releasing my hold on her and the power I'd clutched tightly in my mind. She slumps against the wall, free to move her slackened limbs, and the first thing she does is shake her head at me in disbelief. I always knew there was something between you, but her laugh is slightly crazed. You're completely in love with her. My eyes wander to the floor, chest heaving with each breath. I can't even find a convincing enough lie to spew. I'm not even sure I could bring myself to deny it if I had to. So I stand there like an open wound, letting her examine the weakness she's discovered. Blair takes a single slow step towards me. When my gaze finally climbs up to her awaiting one, the shake of her head is pitying. A sharp smile settles on her lips to mirror the one I've given her since we were children. Oh, you are Prince Kai! Looking up, I find an Imperial standing in the center of the hall with a plate of food in each hand. Identifying his red hair immediately, I watch Lenny's eyes flick between his enforcer and the girl he's meant to be guarding. He clears his throat, hurrying over with an equally rushed, Hello, sir, it's great to see you. Blair, sweetheart, you're meant to be in the room, not loitering outside of it, yes? Her eyes roll before she's spewing falsely sweet words, thoroughly mocking him. Lenny, my little ginger snap, that wouldn't quite literally snap in half with a single thought. that I could quite literally snap in half with a single thought. Kai spotted me before I had the chance to enter my room and send my sharpened knives flying toward those who passed beneath the window. She turns to me then, smiling sarcastically. He loves that game. Don't let him tell you otherwise. Laughing uncomfortably, Lenny shoos her toward the door. Quite the sense of humor she's got. Never a dull moment with this one. Oh, please, she huffs. Don't pretend like you don't like me. It'll only make me work harder, too. Lenny kicks the door shut behind her with a smile. And sure you don't, Blair calls from the other side, voice muffled. Alone in the hall, we stare at each other for a long moment. With a sigh, I mutter, keep her out of sight, all right? It could have been Peyton that walked down this hall, and we all know what she would have done. Lenny nods in agreement. Yes, sir. He steps closer then, casting a weary glance at the door. She can't stay locked up forever, though. It's not right. I run a hand through my hair. I know, but Peyton needs time. That's the only explanation I can offer before turning away and beginning down the hall once again. Good luck with her. His response is quiet, lost to the growing gap between us as I round another corner. Chapter 25. Peyton. Water drips from the ends of my hair, pelting my shoulders as I swirl a finger in the warm bath. I bask in the luxury of it all, lathering sweet-smelling soap onto my skin. Leaning my head over the edge of the porcelain tub, I shut my eyes and focus on this last bit of calm I feel, because the water I'll be venturing into tomorrow will not be so peaceful and contained. It terrifies me, the unknown and uncontrollable, nearly as much as it inspires. After a long day of packing and silently gathering my courage, I've approached dusk with much fear of the day that follows. So, as the night yawned on and sleep evaded, I decided to drown my sorrows in a bath. I'd been buried beneath bubbles for so long that Ellie came to check on me. It took several attempts to convince her that I was, in fact, capable of getting out of bed without her being there. After finally giving in and hesitantly wishing me good night, she left me to get the rest I desperately wished I could. Dipping my head beneath the water, I'm reminded how easily something so warm and soothing can swallow me whole. Even this bath's dangerously unassuming, but the sea is far less enticing. I'm running out of air. I don't even know how to swim. If I end up overboard, the sea will claim me quickly. My lungs tighten. There would be no fighting my way out of death's clutches. Now they burn. I'll be completely vulnerable. I break through the surface, gulping down the damp air. I allow myself another moment to sit within the water, feeling every ripple and lap of it against my skin. Then I'm combing my wet hair back from my face and standing. Throwing on the silken robe Ellie set out for me, only after smiling at the bag of chocolates she left beside it, I pad into the bedroom, intent on flopping face first onto my mattress. Not that I expect to get much sleep. No, it's a combination of nerves and boredom that has me wishing to do nothing at all but rot with my thoughts. This might be my last night on solid ground. I feel queasy. A gnawing worry grows within the pit of my stomach. I think vaguely of how I might leave this world. Fighting? Regretful? At peace? No, peace implies that all is well within my life. But there are so many wrongs to be righted and forgiveness to be earned. I refuse to die until I'm satisfied with the way I lived. I groan. In the end, it is the imminence of death that manages to drag me from my bed. I knock hesitantly on his door. My heart pounds wildly in anticipation. I'm not normally the one to do this, but I doubt I'll ever get to do this again because of how annoyingly nervous I am. The handle turns, and when the door opens, I almost expect to be met with a cocky smile, a mess of black hair, or a familiar set of lips that have tasted mine. But everything before me is unsurety. This mouth is slackened with surprise, and one I've never met. The hair atop his head is blonde and neat at the opposite of his brother's. He is the opposite of his brother. I stand in the doorway, blinking up at the shocked Kit. Hi, I say, if only to fill the silence. His response is equally awkward. Hi. Sorry, did I wake you? Oh no. Kit rubs the back of his neck, an action he frequents. He looks over his shoulder, seeming slightly surprised to find the air unoccupied. No, I don't sleep much anymore. My gaze dips to his stained hands. Are you writing something? Just notes. It helps me think. He clears his throat, mumbles something under his breath. For a moment I think he's forgotten my presence. My eyes narrow at his strange behavior. Are you? Is there a reason you're here at this hour? He blinked the bleariness from his distant gaze. I'm momentarily startled by his sudden composure. Right, yes.
I lift the bundled blanket between us, one I'd ripped off my bed after quickly dressing. I thought we could have a picnic? I wince. I'm not sure really, but I have chocolate? We stare at each other, both of us knowing precisely what this is, a offering. Kit glances over his shoulder again as if weighing whether this is worth a pause in his writing. I'm beginning to believe the king will turn me away when he finally steps aside. I can't say no to chocolate. With a relieved smile, I creep into the room. The folded blanket hangs limply from my fingers while I try not to look so intrigued by his bedchamber. It's surprisingly plain for a king, at least compared to the lavish lifestyle I assumed one would have, but it is not void of character. Potted plants litter the room, dotting each corner with color and twining around anything in reach. My eyes skip over the crumpled bed to find books piled on either side, their broken spines piled to dangerous heights around the room, never far from a strewn map or scribbled document. I would have tidied it up if I'd known you were visiting, Kit says, sounding only slightly self-conscious. He sweeps aside a cluster of inky parchment as I set the blanket on the ground. No need to clean on my behalf. I unfold the fabric to reveal the bag of sweets Ellie left me. You've seen where I lived. I have. He sounds regretful. Taking a seat on the stretched blanket, I fold my legs beneath me and beckon for Kit to follow. He obeys, sitting stiffly to my right with all the comfortability of an acquaintance, not the man meant to be my husband. And that lack of progress is exactly why I'm here. I offer him a chocolate before unwrapping my own. I haven't had one of these since our game of catch in the kitchens. Popping the sweet into his mouth, Kit mumbles, I was the only one catching. You were dropping. All right, I sigh out the words. No need to gloat. He smiles, and that is progress. So why did you really want to have this makeshift picnic with me? Do I need a reason to eat chocolate with you? No, he says slowly, but you likely have one. So you do know me after all, I tease. I thought I did. Another chocolate disappears into his mouth. Once. A frown pulls at my mouth. I haven't changed. I'm still that girl you knew during the purging trials. No, he counters. You're hardened. I stop chewing, our eyes lock in silent scrutiny. I have to be. That is the only way ordinaries can survive in Ilia. Well, you soon won't be ordinary. The king sounds ruffled. You'll be royalty. My laugh is humorless, enough to draw a look of surprise from Kit's stoic features. Maybe, but your father ensured I would never forget who I really was. Maybe it's habit, or anger, or a cruel mixture of both that has my gaze falling to the top button of his crumpled shirt. It seems history refuses to go unrepeated. Once again, I'm avoiding the gaze of a man who nearly killed me. And despite the reminder of these green eyes do not belong to Edric Azure, I still find it difficult to meet them. Even in death, the late king tortures me. There you go again, Kit murmurs. I will my stare to meet his speculating one. He's pinned on me. Hmm? There was a time when you couldn't look me in the eyes, he says evenly. Just as you're doing now. And in the gardens, you told me it was because I reminded you of someone. It was my father, wasn't it? I lean back, slightly startled by his question. But if I want to restore that relationship between us, I need to be honest. I thought your father killed mine, I explained softly. And well, in a way, he did. It was Kai he gave the order to. Kai I watched bury a sword into my father's chest. But I didn't know that until the king taunted me outside the bowl. Kit's voice is numb, and that is when you killed him. Barely, I murmur, remembering every blow the king rained down on me. It was like he'd been waiting for that day, like every blow was planned. It all became such a blur now, but I glance over at his stiff form. But yes, I avoided your gaze, your company, because you look so much like him. The chocolates sit forgotten on the floor, now little more than witnesses to our hushed conversation. And when did you seek out my company? Kit says dryly, it was because you needed to find a way into the tunnels. No, my explanation is a flurry of rushed words. Well, maybe at first, yes, I needed a way into those tunnels, but it became so much more than that. I wanted to spend time with you, be honest about what I was doing, but I wanted to make a difference more, and I knew you were close with your father, so you assumed I was against the resistance, against ordinaries as well, he finishes for me. This is followed by an indifferent shrug. To be honest, I never much cared for what happened to the ordinaries. Banished or not, it didn't matter. But my father was obsessed with ridding Ilya of them, and it was his undoing, his greatest failure. I fiddle with an empty raptor, rolling it between my fingers. And now you're marrying the one thing he hated. Better yet, the one thing that killed him. My whole body tenses in anticipation of my next question. Are you okay with that? I don't really have a choice, he mutters. You know, I didn't think I would be able to look at you either. Not after what you did. But I quickly realized that my father wasn't worth pleasing. His praise wasn't worth obsessing over. He mindlessly gathers the chocolates in a tight circle. Now I will be the one to make Ilya great. My own way. I nod slowly. I'm glad to hear he still doesn't control you. He lets the words hang between us. My fingers take advantage of the tense moment and lift a chocolate to my lips. I savor it, tasting nostalgia between each nutty bite. This is the chocolate I used to steal for Adina on special occasions, the last of which was her birthday, though we hadn't known it would be her last at the time. I can't say the same about you. I'm pulled from my thoughts and back into the king's plush floor. What do you mean? He clearly has control over you, my father, Kit clarifies. Otherwise, you'd have no issue looking me in the eyes. I'm doing it again. My gaze snaps from his throat to crash into the familiar gaze above. It is heavy atop the purple smudges of restlessness. It's time, he knows. Kit opens his mouth again, but I'm already moving, already gathering my courage alongside the folds of my shirt. Determination overrules my sudden desperation to hide this marred piece of myself. But if this man is to be my husband, he will soon see every bit of brokenness that makes up my being. So I might as well start with the scars on my heart. I shift in front of him, forcing the tremble from my voice. He doesn't control me. He haunts me. My hand lifts to tug the collar of my shirt down, down, down. I know the brand is visible when his face pales. Is that, he swallows, is that an O? I don't bother looking down at the jagged letter that defines me. For ordinary. Kit is shaking his head now. I don't. After trailing his blade down my neck, I say flatly, he promised to leave his mark on my heart so I never forget who broke it. He raises his hand as if wishing to run his fingers over the scar before thinking better of it. This is not the man I knew. The man you knew didn't exist. His eyes trace that mangled circle of flesh. I'm sorry. My voice is hoarse. I am too. You're not the girl I knew during the purging trials, he said softly. Not anymore. His words don't startle me like I thought they would. Because he's right. I've already mourned the girl who died alongside Adina in the pit. Something broken staggered out of the bowl arena that day, and I have only been stronger for it. And you're not the boy I knew either. My throat is dry, but I scrape the words off my tongue. Now I want to know this king you've become. Kit's voice is light despite the weight of his words. I worry for what you will find. Chapter 26. Payton. Wind whips at my hair and stings my cheeks. It's biting in a way that's oddly refreshing after the stuffy coach ride between the uncharacteristically quiet brothers. I've never been so close to the sea, never dared. Now I'll be sailing over it. We stand at the edge of the only rickety dock left in Ilya. Inky water slaps against the long post supporting each wood slab I stand on. I breathe in the salty air, scan the ever-stretching horizon. It's terrifyingly exhilarating. It's something that finds such strength in the ever-changing. But what floats atop the water is nearly as breathtaking. The ship looms to our left, casting an ominous shadow over us. The dark wood spans several 100 feet long, coming to a slight point on one end. Two large sails are bunched tightly against the tall masts, readying to be reunited with the wind. My gaze travels over the expanse of wood before falling back to the waves lapping beneath. Is the water always this choppy? I ask, looking over the brothers. No, Kai answers dully. I let out a sigh of relief. Well, that's good. It's usually worse. And just like that, my chest is tightening once again. Kit claps his enforcer on the shoulder. Ever the optimist, brother. The king seems to be in higher spirits this morning despite our heavy conversation last night. Or perhaps it's simply Kai who brightens his mood. Yes, I muse. Very comforting. The sound of approaching footsteps has us turning. It's Callum striding down the uneven dock, clutching a small stack of books beneath his arm. To his right, the court spokesman resides with a tight smile. Essel steps forward before curtly relaying the information. Your trunks have been loaded onto the boat and brought to your cabins. The crew is ready to depart when you are. My stomach churns at the thought of abandoning solid ground, but I force myself to nod convincingly. Noticing my worry, or rather, reading my anxious thoughts, Callum asks, "May I have a moment with Peyton?" The brothers oblige, observing quietly as they head down the dock. Tucking his hands and the books within them behind his back, Callum leads me slowly to the end of the dock. "You're doing well, you know." I kick a rock off the wood plank and hear it hit the water with a soft plunk. It doesn't feel like it. "Respect is earned," he says softly. "It takes much time, but once you finish these trials, things will begin to move very quickly." I nod, gaze lingering on the crashing waves below. "I'll be married." "You'll be a queen," he adds. "And I'll still be ordinary." The wood the words have him turning to look at me, blonde hair catching in the light. At the feel of his piercing gaze, I wonder briefly what it is he's gleaning from my thoughts. "Yes, you always have been and always will be, even with a crown on your head." We stand in silence at the edge of the dock, watching the sun shimmer against the water as it tiptoes slowly into the sky. I glance over at him, committing this peaceful moment to memory. "Thank you," I breathe into the crisp air, "for everything. But mostly for being here with me. You're a comfort in the castle." I laugh slightly, sadly, "and in this whole new life I've been thrown into." His smile is reserved. "I'm here to help in any way." He pulls the books from behind his back, presenting the worn covers to me. "In fact, I brought these for your journey. They may help to pass the time." Reaching out, I run a hesitant finger over a familiar burgundy spine. "Thank you, but I'd hate to ruin your things if somehow we end up in the sea." "You don't have to worry about that," he cuts in softly. "Well, ruining my books, that is. These belong to you." My eyes snap to his. "What?" "When your father died and you disappeared," he starts slowly, "I grabbed some of your favorite stories for safekeeping, and I hope to give them back to you one day." With every word, the books seem to familiarize before my eyes. Each faded cover holds a distant memory, a fleeting image of a man in his reading chair and a little girl sitting at his feet. "He used to read these to me." "He did." Callum gently hands me the four thin books. "I believe you even wrote a few notes in there as a child." "I can't imagine I had anything important to add," I say, laughing lightly. Quickly flipping through one of the books, I find a small rose sketched onto the inside cover. The words, "For Peyton," are scrawled beneath it in a vaguely familiar, looping handwriting. He eyes me carefully. "You'd be surprised." With a small smile, he adds, "I'll have them brought to your cabin." I suppose he can likely hear the gratitude in my thoughts, but that doesn't seem like quite enough, so I emphasize the unspoken words with an impulsive throwing of my arms around him. This makes him hesitate for a moment, stutter in confusion, and finally return the sentiment. With his arm circling my shoulders, I whisper one last, "Thank you." We stand in the ship's shadow, all staring at the vessel meant to carry us across the treacherous water. A crowd has formed on the rocky shore where hundreds of eyes hope to get their last glimpse of the hated ordinary. Imperials barricade the dock, halting anyone who dares push their way toward us. But no one makes a move, content to letting the shallows have their way with me. In their eyes, I'm as good as dead. The king glances over at his enforcer. "Changed your mind yet, Kai?" "Unfortunately not," he sighs. "But do try not to miss me too much. I've stationed extra Imperials with you while I'm gone, so you certainly won't be feeling lonely." "Oh, yes. I look forward to not a single moment of privacy." The humor in Kit's voice dissolves quickly. "Please come home, Kai. I can't have you dying on me, too." I look away as if it could save me from this awkward intrusion of their conversation. Still, I hear the enforcer's earnest response. "I'll be back. Death fears me, remember?" I can hear an inkling of that cocky bastard slipping into his voice when he says, "And when I return, we'll celebrate with another dance between the three of us. So long as Peyton doesn't purposely step on my toes this time." "I have no recollection of that," I state defensively. "I must have been subconscious." It must have been subconscious." Kit laughs, and the sound bleeds into his next words, all of them aimed at his brother. "Well, she tries to keep us. She kept trying to jump onto my back, remember? And then blamed her failed attempts on the constricting dress," Kai adds, with a punch-worthy smile. "Trust me, I remember. The moment replays every time I close my eyes." "All right, that's enough," I huff. "Remember this conversation when I suddenly pushed you overboard?" "Oh, you can try, Gray," Kai mocks with a crooked grin. "But don't blame your constrictive sleeves when you aren't able to." Kit's laugh nearly drowns out my words. "That's it. I'm getting on this damn boat." I step out onto the plank, forcing my gaze ahead and not on the raging water beneath me. The voices behind grow muffled by the lapping waves, but Kai stands out even among the sea. Take care of yourself while I'm gone. Get some rest. Promise me. I promise. Kit returns quietly. I would ask you to ensure Peyton does the same, but I already know you will. My heart quickens its pace as I step onto the ship's dock. Several seconds pass before the enforcer follows, wood groaning beneath his boots. As I lean over the rail, Kit's gaze finds mine from the dock below before he offers a mouthed, "Good luck." Kai! A shout rings through the air, carried on the wind. Kai whips around, scanning the wall of Imperials on the other end of the dock, where a tingle of limbs attempts to break through. Kai, wait! But he does nothing of the sort. Instead, he's striding toward the familiar voice, shoving Imperials aside to reach the lanky boy. Even from this distance, I can see the tears brimming in Jax's eyes. He stands there, panting before his brother, and when he opens his mouth, the choked sob that escapes it makes my breath catch. Don't go, he begs Kai. Please don't go. I might never see you again. A hiccup cuts off his words at the same moment Kai wraps his arms around the boy, holding him tight. He's saying something I can't hear, something that is likely meant to be a comfort. Jax squeezes his eyes shut as he grips the back of Kai's shirt in his fists. My parents never came back, I hear him say, voice breaking. A piece of me shatters at the sound of it, at the grief already filling his voice. Jax has lost so much, so young, and I'm watching him beg Kai not to be the next person he mourns. Sniffling, Jax lets himself be pried away from his big brother. More hushed words are exchanged before Kai ruffles the boy's hair for what may be the last time. Then he turns slowly, solemnly, and strides back to the ship. Shoulders tight and silence heavy, Kai joins me on board. The enforcer nods to the awaiting crew while I manage to muster up a smile. Chaos ensues shortly after our acknowledgement of them, as men and women begin bustling around the ship. Orders are shouted, suddenly setting every person into motion with a different task to complete. With a subtle hand at my lower back, Kai guides me to the head of the ship, where we watch the sails unfurl above us. Just the sheer amount of cloth would have Adina gawking, and I cling to that thought, that image of my smiling A. My gaze travels to the large man at the helm, his hand gripping one of the many spokes adorning the massive wheel. His hat, attire, and shouted commands tell me that this is our captain for the journey to come. He looks weathered by the sea, and that alone is a comfort. Perhaps we have a chance at survival after all. Thick ropes dangle from every corner of the ship, swaying from the masts towering over us. I'm in awe of such structured mayhem. It takes every scuttling crew member and their seemingly unimportant tasks to persuade the vessel into gliding across the water. Of course, the gusts on board suddenly aid in the ship's quick pace. They guide chilling blasts of air into the sails, all wide tellies, hold down ropes and rigging with nothing but their minds. My gaze wanders over each soul, attempting to coax the sea into something tamer, right down to the hydros leaning over the railings, trying to smother what waves crash into the hull. When the ship starts moving, my attention falls to the dock that slowly begins slipping away from us. My knuckles grow white around the wooden railing with each second the wind takes me further from solid ground. You're going to be fine, Pay, Kai murmurs beside me. Right, I say distractedly. I know. Is that why you're giving yourself splinters? Dragging my gaze from the distancing dock, I look down at the hand I've clamped around the railing. I'm just nervous. He leans his arms against the rail. You usually are around me. Don't hurt yourself over it, darling. I turn to face him with a scoff. I'm nervous about the journey, you prick. Not even 20 minutes on the sea, and you've already come up with a new nickname for me. I'm sure many more will come to mind in the days ahead. His eyes roam over me, and I'm reminded how much I enjoy the feel of it. I missed you, he finally murmurs, voice low. Something flutters in my chest, and it might just be those nerves he determined I feel around him. I never left. A shake of his head. And yet I feel the absence of you all the time. He looks out at the water, his gray eyes mirroring the sea before us. I suppose that is my sentence for the rest of my life. I scramble for words, fight for the strength to speak them once they're found, but the moment shatters when a figure approaches. The captain extends a hand to Kai, shaking it sternly. Enforcer, sir. It's an honor to be sailing with you. When he turns to me, his greeting is far less enthusiastic. With a nod of his head, he offers a soft, my lady. I nearly jump when he claps his large hands together. Now, I'm Captain Tory, and this beauty, he smacks the railing beside me, is the reckoning. The long brown hair beneath his hat ripples when he shakes a thick finger at us. I haven't sailed in nearly a decade because of that damned decree to stay out of those damned waters. His dark eyes flick back to me. Excuse my language, miss, but shit, if you ask me, this voyage is long overdue. We need to take back the shallows. He all but caresses the railing. And she is our reckoning. Of course. My tone has Kai's lips twitching. Now, what was that about not sailing for nearly a decade? Well, Tori stutters, the shallows have been legally off limits, so this is my first crossing in some time. But I assure you, he booms, that the crew and I are up to the challenge. Kai nods to the captain. Well, we greatly appreciate your willingness. It's not easy to find sailors in Ilya anymore. My stomach churns at the reminder. Ilya's experience with the shallows is as limited as it is alarming, and the countless shipwrecks are a testament to that. No one of sane mind has set sail to the sea in nearly a decade, which would have made this crew incredibly out of practice. Any hope of survival has severely dwindled. Well, you don't see me running for these waters, sir. Well, you won't see me running from these waters, sir, the captain practically yells with a puff of his chest. Not even the creatures could keep me away. He points to a thin scar slashing across his withered cheek. Oi, but the devils have tried. He laughs, belly shaking beneath his button coat. An uncomfortable sound climbs from my throat while Kai manages a polite laugh with the man. After taking a moment to recover, Tori continues with a wheezing cough. Now, let's get you acquainted with the reckoning, eh? After an incoherent shout from the captain that makes me flinch, a man hurries over to his side. This, Tori says nonchalantly, is my first mate Leon. He will be showing you your rooms and around the ship. Leon nods curtly, his dark skin glistened with sweat beneath the bandana tied around his head. The loose white blouse he wears catches the wind like a sail of its own, the fabric flapping against him. Warm brown eyes fall to mine, and for once, it's not hatred I see within a gaze, rather curiosity. If you need anything, the captain continues, it will be Leon here you go to. I'll be busy ensuring this damn ship makes it to shore. He laughs deeply at his own words, even while stepping away with a toothy grin. Leon will give you a nice tour of our lovely lady, but don't get too comfortable. We'll be docking at Isram in 6 days' time. Hopefully. With another bellowing laugh, he's heading for the helm, coat billowing behind him. I glance at Kai before obeying Leon's gesture to follow him. He leads us toward the stern of the ship, where a pair of wooden doors sit beneath the quarterdeck at the rear. I'm forced to dodge bustling crew members as we walk, though they make an effort to steer clear of the enforcer in front of me. 2 sets of wooden staircases lead to the deck above where Tori now stands at the wheel, conversing with the man who's likely his navigator. Gaze falling back to the doors before us, I watch as Leon shoves them open to reveal a slim hallway. He points to the particularly large doorway at the end of the corridor. Captain's quarters. If he invites you to dine with him one evening, you'll get the chance to see it. His voice is deep, tone dry in a way that makes me assume he'd rather be doing anything else. And these are your rooms, he informs, turning to the left and opening a pair of doors. I peek inside one, finding a small bed crowding most of it. My packed trunk lies on a rickety dresser that creaks with every rock of the ship. A small porthole allows foggy light to stream in and drape the cot beneath. And there, on a small side table, sits a stack of books Callum brought for me. Leon doesn't allow much time to examine the cabin before we're walking again. Leading us back into the bustling dock, I blink in the searing sunlight as he lifts a large grate from the wooden floor. This is the cargo access, he says simply before stepping down the steep stairs that lead to the ship's underbelly. With a reassuring glance, Kai descends first into the dim room below. I'm halfway down the steps when the ship rocks, forcing me to wrap my fingers around the wobbly railing beside me. Leon is talking again before I've even reached the floor. This is the berth deck, otherwise known as the gun deck. To emphasize, he gestures to the several cannons that innocently line the room. This is also where the crew sleeps. I stare at the dozen of swinging hammocks, most of which are haphazardly hung between the ominous cannons. All of them? I blurt, unable to help myself. In this one room? Yes, miss, Leon responds plainly. Only the higher officers receive cabins. The rest of the crew live and sleep here. I swallow at the thought, already feeling nauseous at the sight of each swinging hammock. But the first mate pries my gaze from the assortment of hanging fabric when he points to the right. The gun port lies this way, along the casks of rum and water. He swivels in the other direction. Some officers' quarters and the infirmary lie that way. Leon then points down at the deck beneath our feet, where another grate rests. Ship stores, cargo holds, spare sails, rigging, and your crate of roses. Oh, and the galley. At my look of confusion, Leon adds, the kitchen. That's all down here, where you will never need to go. With that, he starts up the stairs again, saying over his shoulder, that's about it. Not much of a tour. Once again, I find myself blinking in the sudden brightness when we reach the main deck. You're free to head to your rooms or stay on the main deck, at the front of the ship. He points towards the pointed bow. You'll find the head, or simply put, a place to relieve yourself. With a glance at me, he continues. For you, miss, and the other women on board, we've added a bit of privacy to one of the toilets. I smile thinly. That is much appreciated. He nods, looking slightly apologetic before continuing. Your meals will be brought to your cabins. Where you eat them is up to you. Deliberating, Leon seems to find nothing else of importance and concludes the tour with a reassuring string of words. If you need anything at all, find me, and trust that I will find you in case of an emergency. Before I can question what emergency that might be, the first mate is walking away. My doubt forms into a single sentence. What are the odds that we survive this journey? Kai runs a hand through his windblown hair. You tell me, little psychic. I roll my eyes. I'm sensing that we may end up at the sea before even spotting land. He smiles, and suddenly the frigid water seems like a good idea. Then I'll swim for the both of us. Chapter 27. Kai. The ship rocks beneath me, lulling my body into a quiet place that isn't quite sleep. Lacing my hands beneath my head, I stretch out onto the cot, listening to the muffled waves outside my porthole. The sea is kind today, perhaps only to lure us into a false sense of security. Water is fickle, and man is foolish enough to think we can tame it. The sun is setting beyond my small window, casting the cabin in an orange hue. I stare idly at the slated ceiling above, unsure what to do with myself. I've never been so useless on a mission. One might find this dullness relaxing, but it's restlessness I feel. My dinner plate sits atop the bedside table, now empty of the potatoes and beef that once filled the chipped dish. Reaching over it, I grab the bottle of rum that was graciously brought to my room and lift it to my lips. I sit up from the rough pillow, grimacing as the alcohol burns down my throat. Shit! I cough out the curse before deciding it's a good idea to take another sip. This may be the strongest liquor I've had in years. Likely since Ava died. The thought leaves a bitter taste in my mouth that has nothing to do with the rum. My grip is tight around the bottle's neck. Since boarding this ship, I've been continuously reminded of just how dangerous it is to be alone with my thoughts. So I have no choice but to be with her. That is what I tell myself as I stride out into the hall and rap my knuckles against her door. Peyton's muffled voice comes from behind the wood. Yes? Would you like some company? I call back. Is it yours? I'm afraid so, darling. All right, come on in, she says, sounding amused, by turning the handle, not kicking down the door. Smiling, I do as I'm told and step into the room. She's sitting on the bed, ankles crossed in front of her and back propped against the cabin wall. The dying sunlight streams far brighter through this porthole, splashing color and warmth over her. A worn book is held loosely between her fingers, with those blue eyes flick up to mine. See, she says sweetly, that wasn't so hard. I give her a look before sprawling onto her bed, my head in her lap. Are you drinking away your boredom? She muses, looking down at me. I shake the bottle still clutched in my hand. I was. And then I remembered that you are a far more appealing distraction. She rolls those bright eyes at me. Did you come in here just to flirt, Azure? Darling, I haven't even started. Groaning dramatically, she snatches the bottle from my hand. Then I'm going to need this. Don't act like you don't love it. She takes a swig of rum, twisting her face at the taste. I'm laughing before her lips have even left the bottle. She coughs and sputters and shoves the liquor back into my palm. Composing herself, Pei looks down at me with watery eyes that may just be a drop of the sea itself. There are a lot of things I pretend not to love. I still at her words. My gaze wander over the face she tilts towards me, over every strand of silver hair falling around it. I reach up slowly, running my fingers through the shining, sun-drenched pieces. My voice is a murmur, a quiet, confession. You're far better at pretending than I am. Her smile is sad. I've just had more practice at it. I shut my eyes for a long moment, reminded of the wearisome life she's endured. I know. She manages a smile, her fingers suddenly closing around the bottle once again. As soon as it's pried from my hand, she's lifting it into the air. But we don't need to pretend in here. After taking another sip, she hands the rum to me between coughs. I'll drink to that, I mutter before sitting up and swallowing a mouthful. She wags a finger at me. But that means you have to be on your best behavior when and if we make it back to Ilya. Her gaze drops to the ring, hugging her finger. Kit noticed that this was on the wrong finger from the night you came to my rooms. So no more sneaking around. Let's just enjoy this time together, because we won't get it again. I hear the unspoken words hanging between us. They mock me, just like that glinting diamond she wears. Every moment with her is spent mourning the next, awaiting the day we speak for the last time. She glances up at me, clears her throat. I went to his rooms last night. My blood chills. Did you? Words spill from her mouth, sounding more and more like a confession. I'm just trying to fix this awkwardness between us. If we were supposed to spend the rest of our lives together, I want to at least enjoy being around one another. He's so stoic with me, and that is certainly not the Kit I once knew, nor is that the brother he is towards you, so I will keep befriending him in the hopes he will eventually reciprocate. She looks back at me expectantly, brows raised. I let her words sink in before washing them down with another swig of rum. It burns in my throat as I reach for the little purple book beside her. What are you reading? My hand is quickly halted by her quick snatching of my wrist. Did you even hear what I just said? I heard you. My hands cup her face. I did. I do. And if you want me to tell you the sheer extent of my jealousy, then I will. But I'd rather not waste what little time we have together talking about my brother, especially while I sit on your bed and try to stop myself from doing something rash with my future queen. My eyes flick between her wide ones. But when we're back in that palace, I'll let you see just how much I hate that you are not mine. Peyton's mouth parts. Okay. I, um, it seems I've rendered her speechless. She clears her throat before trying again. What was it you asked? My smile is wicked. Your book, darling. Right. She takes a deep breath. It's one I loved as a child. Callum brought it for me. I place a hand on her thigh, leaning in to watch her flip open the cover. Faded illustrations are scattered throughout the pages, as are several pencil markings I can't quite make out. My father used to read them to me, she says softly. This one was my favorite. Tell me about it, I murmur. My request makes her smile. It's about phoenixes and other mystical creatures I always wished to meet, but it was the girl in this story that I liked most. She paused on a random page, running her finger over the faint message scribbled there in crooked handwriting. I want to be powerful like her. Peyton shakes her head at the words before closing the book. It's just a silly story. I watched her for a long moment, though she avoids my gaze. And the other books? Mostly magic and worlds I wanted to escape to. She sounds oddly bashful. Worlds where I might have fit in. I shift, laying my head back onto her lap. So which one will you be reading me? Her whole face lights up, and it's the most beautiful thing I behold. Really? I'm all ears, Gray. Beaming, she flips to the front of that purple book. Phoenixes it is, then. My eyes fall shut when soft words begin spilling from her mouth. I'm quickly lost in the story, in the hypnotic voice that strings it together. The rocking ship lulls me into that fleeting sense of peace while her fingers comb through my hair, tickle my skin. I picture this version of us, far in the future that will never come to pass. A happy ending in which I lie on Peyton's lap, listening to her read until the day I fade into a distant memory. But that is nothing more than a silly story of my making. So I revel in the present and the moments where we hide from the inevitable. She reads until the sun tires and dips beneath the waves, until darkness drapes the room and smothers each word on the page. Peyton quiets, brushing a strand of hair from my brow. At the sound of her book snapping shut, I lift my gaze to her shadowed one above me. Do you? Muffled stomping from beyond the door has me swiftly sitting up. Glancing at each other, we strain to hear the commotion coming from the main deck. Clapping follows the pounding of boots, creating a symphony of chaos. Is that Peyton quiets to a growing sound of music. That, I say, grinning into the darkness, is the sound of a poorly played fiddle. I don't give her a chance to reply before I'm pulling her off the bed. Sputtering, she manages, "What are you doing?" I turn to face her, lifting the hand that isn't wearing my brother's ring. My lips find the pad of her thumb. She sucks in a breath at the intimacy of it, at the meaning buried beneath. "My pretty Pay, would you like to dance?" Her smile seems to brighten in the darkness. "I would never pass up the chance to stomp on your toes, Malachi." I tug her close, hold her tight. She knows exactly what she's doing. My name means nothing to me until she speaks it. Nothing until she claims it as her own. I kiss it off her lips, taste every power she holds over me. My hand cups the back of her neck, fingers tangling in her short hair. She's clutching my shirt and pulling me against her. Another chorus of stomps has us breaking apart and breathing heavy. Peyton laughs in that intoxicating way that makes me want to pull her mouth back to mine, but she's grabbing my hand and swinging the door open before I get the chance. I'm being tugged out into the hall and toward the double doors ahead. With a quick smile over her shoulder, she drops my hand and pushes them open. The deck sprawls before us, bathed in moonlight. Men and women of all ages dance in time to the fiddle's melody, linking arms to spin around the wood. The crew claps and stomps and crudely sings along to a song that belongs out at sea. Peyton steps forward, seeming unsure even as she smiles at the scene. Spotting us from the makeshift circle of bellowing men, Leon strides over, looking less stoic than he had this morning, though the bottle of rum in his hand is likely to think of that. As a way of greeting, he answers the questioning look Peyton wears. "The crew always celebrates a time at sea. Today we have been especially smooth sailing, considering the Shallow's reputation." The ship rocks slightly in agreement, its hull cutting easily through lazy waves. Leon nods to the rowdy group. "You're welcome to join. Have some rum. Dance. Oh, and Sam's fiddle is out of tune, but believe me, it's been worse." I offer an arm to Peyton. "Should I hold your shoes now, or wait for you to lose them?" "Maybe I'll just throw them at you," she smiles sweetly, "so you can find them easier." My gaze lazily explores her face. Vicious little thing. When we step into the circle, Peyton wastes no time before clapping to the beat. I watch her smile at the dancing before us, but more importantly, I watch those eyeing her closely. Some scowl at her presence, while others barely notice the future queen among them. And before I am dragged into the dance, I memorize the faces of those glaring men. Peyton hooks her arms through mine before we're stepping in a circle. She laughs, picking up our pace and flipping around to take my other arm. We do this until I'm out of breath, until my mouth hurts from smiling at her. Rum is passed between us, as we are the dance partners we link elbows with. The fiddle's quick melodies have us stomping along into the night, clapping when our feet get sore. Before long, Peyton is swaying beside a sailor, singing a ballad to the sea crashing around us. I do this for her. Every dance, every smile. She seems so much more alive away from Ilya, away from the reminder of everything she's not. But out here, even surrounded by elites, we are all at the mercy of the sea. I think she finds comfort in that. So I spin her into the moonlight, smile when she laughs at my expense, and let her step on my toes. Edric. There is little that King Edric, ruler of the First Kingdom, fears. But this child is a tangible nightmare in his arms. You are wrong. Those are the first words out of Edric's mouth, aimed sharply at his silencer. Damien has curtly handed the king his daughter before stepping away, now holding tightly to that stoic expression plastered on his features. There is a slow shake of his head, the action regretful. "I can silence no power from her, your majesty. I could be mistaken, but the king has heard enough. See, the mere prospect of a powerless child sharing his name is sufficiently damning." Whispers slither their way into the silence, and with them the ringing in Edric's ears. He looks down at the baby girl, seeing little more than her lack of power. How could he, a brawny and king of gods, produce something so weak? This is an embarrassment. This is a mockery of everything the king is and believes. His green eyes grow colder with each passing moment as they drift towards Iris's dead body. She was a rarity, one that Edric had not known before her, a soul. This ability allowed her to sense and manipulate another's emotions. More than once, Iris had used it on the king to turn the pressures of ruling into a spark of happiness that he only ever felt when she was around. The child cries in Edric's trembling arms, its skin still sticky with blood. How could this nothing come from something so strong and rare? An ordinary born of two powerful elites is unheard of. And yet here she is, this weak excuse for life. Each scream has the infant's bloody chest rising and falling, the action so frail. It's almost impressive, the pathetic little heart pumping beneath her skin. The king thinks this is with the king thinks this with disgust, reminded only of the fact that his wife is no longer having a pulse. But this weakness does. Edric looks down at his own daughter, hate in his heart and sorrow welling in his eyes. Iris is dead, and it was all for an ordinary, for this embarrassment, for nothing. The king gives a command, cutting through the silence. It's even and deliberate, as though the words tumbling from his mouth don't steal the breath from every pair of surrounding lungs. Get rid of it. Feet shift, throats clear. A healer, her hands stained scarlet, can think of nothing to say but the king's title posed as a question. Your Majesty? It killed my wife, Edric says coolly. An ordinary killed my wife. Get rid of it. Your Majesty, an advisor protests. It's merely an infant. Get rid of it. The king extends the child into the open air, pushing as much space between them as possible. His gaze is sharp enough to draw blood, and that is precisely what will happen if his demands are not met. I'll dispose of it. Edric's mind reader steps forward, extending his hands toward the crying princess, who only has had this fleeting moments to do so. The king smiles tightly before handing his daughter over to the trusted Fatal. This is the last time he will ever hold her. All this child will ever know is his violence and hatred before the end. See that you do, Edric orders, holding the mind reader's gaze before turning to address every other stunned stare. What you saw today did not happen. Your queen did not die giving birth to an ordinary because she passed 2 years ago when delivering me my son and heir. That is what the kingdom will know. That is what history will know. He glances over at his wailing daughter, expression void of any sympathy. This ordinary does not belong to me. It is already forgotten. As the mind reader steps from the room, a lost princess in his arms, the king barks a command at his advisors. Seal the records. Ensure that today never happened. Then he storms from the room, having rid the world of one more useless ordinary. Chapter 28. Payton. A clap of thunder jolts me awake. I sit up, blinking in the darkness that surrounds me. The ship shakes violently, nearly tipping me from the cot. Rain pelts the porthole, the sound echoing off the glass. I sit there, stunned by how quickly the weather turned. Our second day at sea has been eerily peaceful, dragging on as I read to Kai and milled about the deck. Another sharp turn of the ship has my books toppling to the floor with a soft thud I hardly hear over the roll of thunder. Another crack of lightning follows a beat after, illuminating the room with a fleeting flash of light. I can feel each angry wave against the boat, hear the roar of rushing water so close beyond the wooden walls. Muffled, muffled shouts echo from the main deck. I stand up, legs shaking atop the unsteady floor. The ship dips into a crashing wave, pitching me forward before I can find my footing. I collide with the wall, bracing my arms against it, until I trust myself to take another step. Managing to stumble towards the door, I reach for the handle, fingers slipping as I'm flung forward once again. The dresser creaks behind me, mimicking each chilling groan from the ship. When I finally throw open the door, I screech at the figure standing behind it. Kai! I'm forced to yell over the storm despite my relief at seeing him. What is... My eyes fall to the dark shadow spilling slowly down the hallway. It takes me a moment to realize what I'm looking at and what it means. Water. The waves are crashing over the ship, readying to swallow us all. His hands are suddenly on my hips, pushing me back. You need to stay in this room. Thunder growls all around us, shaking the very floors we stand on. Kai is kicking the door shut, closing us in this room, this watery grave. I shake my head at him as I feel panic rising at my throat. No, no, I can't be locked in here, Kai. Not now. A crack of lightning shadows his stern features. He cups my face, holding me steady when the ship lurches. Do you trust me? A trickle of water seeps beneath the door. Like death's cold finger, it reaches for me. Pay. He shouts. His shout forces my gaze back at him. I nod shakily. I do. I didn't. I did, even when I shouldn't have. I know the feeling. He presses his forehead to mine, breathing soft words across my skin. So I need you to stay in this room with me until we are told otherwise. My pounding heart drowns out every crashing wave, every desperate shout from the crew who wrestles them. The cabin seems to close in on me, growing smaller with the echoing thought that I can no longer leave. Leave it. The sea rages all around me, and yet it may be my own claustrophobia that drags me into death. The room is growing smaller, the ocean yawning larger. I'm going to suffocate in this cabin before the water even rushes into my lungs. My lungs. I can't even seem to find air. I'm choking on a different type of sea. It's this shallow space, this ever shrinking cabin come to crush me. My knees buckle beneath me before I'm sinking to the floor. Ears ringing, I can barely hear Kai shouted concern behind me. He's holding my crumpled body against his as we rock back and forth with the churning waves. Something cold laps at my leg. Hazily, I look down to find Death's icy finger grazing my skin. A caress and reunion all at once. He's found me once again. The last time we met, he brushed sandy fingers against my cheek in the scorches. Now it's the raging sea he commands to drag me back to him. A muffled shout against my ear has me stirring. I place a palm in the puddle of water as if to shake Death's hand. Commend him for his resilience. Pay! Lightning flashes across the room at the same moment my name rings out into it. His head is tucked beneath my shoulder, breath warm against my skin there. We're going to be fine, he reassures sternly. You've survived the scorches more than once. Now you will do the same for the shallows. I nod, forcing my breath to slow. We sit on the floor, holding each other while the boat tries to throw us apart. I cling to him, every finger fist in his crumpled shirt. He strokes my hair, whispers words of comfort, my anchor in the storm. I have something for you, he murmurs. Still struggling to swallow my panic, I croak, a distraction, I hope. Something like that. He unwraps an arm for me, never fully letting me go as he struggles to shrug something from his shoulders. It's only when he sets the pack atop the damp floor that I notice it for the first time. Reaching inside, he pulls out a thinly wrapped sphere. I don't even have to ask what it is. I know that shape, know the smell. Honey. Tears prick my eyes. You brought that from Ilya? Another streak of lightning follows me to the slight smile gracing his features. Just for you. Kai lets me do the honors of unraveling the sweet dough. The honey coating my fingers has a smile tipping my lips. I forget every chilling wave that tries to tear the ship apart, every fear lodged deep in my throat. It's this sticky bun I focus on instead, and the memory of every one I've shared before. My eyes flutter shut when I finally take a bite. This dough holds every happy moment I've ever had in my life. And if I'm to die tonight, I want it to be with this honey on my tongue. This reminder of my home, Adina. It might be a bit stale by now. Kai starts softly. No, I choke out. It's perfect. This is exactly how I always ate them. How we always ate them. Thunder roars as we sway on the floor with each roll of the ship. I sink my fingers into the sticky bun, pulling it in half. Kai looks surprised when I offer him a piece. This is for you, your distraction, he says firmly. I want you to share it with me. Please? I wave the dough in front of him in a way that Adina used to always do. I don't know how to eat one of these alone. Graciously, he nods in understanding before plucking the piece from between my fingers. I flinch at the echoing shouts that are quickly carried away on the whipping wind. You deserve a distraction, too, I say as softly as the stormy sea will allow. He brushes cool knuckles down the side of my cheek. You are forever my distraction, darling. Water pools around my ankles, and yet I sit here with my head against his chest. We eat the sticky bun on the floor of my cabin in the middle of a raging sea, and somehow find tranquility in the violence. As if I found the eye of the storm within him, and he in me. I wake to a soft pillow beneath my head. I certainly didn't put it there, nor did I lift my body onto the bed last night. But here I lie, snuggled beneath the covers with my hands that are clean of honey. Blinking my tired eyes into focus, I sweep them over the damp floor in the spot we had occupied last night. We sat there for hours, talking over the storm, bracing ourselves against each shuddering wave. I must have dozed off in his arms before they lifted me into the cot. Beyond the porthole is a sky of gray, and beneath it is a riled sea, likely embittered that the ship is still afloat. The ship is still afloat. A relieved smile settles over my lips as I sit up. I've survived my first storm on the shallows. Whether I live to see the next is a worry for another time. Standing to my feet, I pad across the damp floor and unlatch my trunk. A heap of neatly folded clothes greets me, though I'm quick to rummage through them in search of something comfortable to wear. I settle for a pair of fitted black pants beneath a loose blouse. Pulling my olive vest on, I run my fingers down the fraying seams and stretched pockets. It feels as though I've barely worn the gift since returning to Ilia. Instead, I've been shoved into gowns that make me think of Adina and how she can no longer make them, even in death, with those broken fingers. Dipping my hands into the fresh water basin atop the dresser, I banish the thought from my head with a cool splash across my face. With a slight shiver, I pat my skin dry and my books are on the floor. No, 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 I murmur, rushing over to collect the delicate stories. The ship still rocks enough to have me struggling with my footing, so I drop to my knees before the waves send me sprawling. I quickly gather the books in my arms, noting their rippled pages from the sea water. Cursing under my breath, I stand and head for the door. The damp spines stick to my palms as I march out onto the dock and greet the dreary sky above. Wind whips at my unbound hair, sending silver strands to obscure my vision. I fight to free my gaze, only to stop suddenly at the devastation I see. Large chunks have been torn from the railing where the sea has sunk its icy teeth into the wood. Tangled ropes lie strewn across the deck, littering the floor alongside the other miscellaneous debris. The captain's bellows the captain's bellowed commands ensure that no crew member stands idly. The ship teeters beneath me, and I stumble on legs not accustomed to the sea. The sailors surrounding me sneer at the sight before continuing to stride utterly unfazed across the slippery dock. I straighten my vest and gather what is left of my dignity as I walk carefully toward an unmarred section of railing. The wind cuts through me, stinging and salty. I lean over the railing, watching the water rush below. Its light blue and green coloring is deceitfully inviting, despite the great depth beneath the surface. And that is precisely how it earned its name, Shallows, for itself. Clutching three of the books tightly beneath my arm, I lift one into the air, letting the pages flutter in the wind. It's not the most ideal way to dry them, but it will certainly be the fastest. Snickers behind my back tell me that the crew have taken a liking to laughing at my expense. I ignore them, as I've done with every haughty elite I've been forced to live alongside, and switch books. That is when the boat dips into a wave, spraying water across the deck to thoroughly drench me. More laughter fills the air as I stand there, shivering and clutching the last piece of my childhood against my constricting chest. Need some help, darling? I spin on my heel, nearly tipping over when the ship bucks beneath us. But there he is, hands shoved into pockets nearly as deep as the dimple peeking out at me. Damn him. Damn him. With the way he's looking at me, I might as just mumbled the words out loud. Nothing and no one has ever devastated me more. Not the sand, the sea, the slow brush of death's hand. Because maybe, just maybe, he is the most ruinous thing of them all. He shrugs off his coat to reveal a fitted black shirt. Don't look at me like that. Those words seem to stir something within me, a fleeting memory muffled by several glasses of champagne. The fragile thought shatters with the chattering of my teeth. And how am I looking at you? His responding grin has blood rushing to my numb cheeks. He steps close, swinging the coat around my shoulders before tugging it closed. I watch his mouth form a response I never get to hear. Oi! That was quite the storm last night. I barely know the man, and yet I recognize his voice from across the ship. Turning, I find Tori trudging toward us, long hair knotted at the base of his neck. But she pulled through, he continues, rushing a hand over the chipped railing. Though I fear this is only the beginning. The shallows will not continue to be so kind. I clutch my books tightly beneath Kai's draped coat. If it was kindness the sea showed us last night, I'm not sure I'll live long enough to see land. Cheer up, girl! The captain laughs at whatever he sees on my face. You only need to last 4 more days, and then, well, the trip back, but we won't concern ourselves with that just yet. He finds that funny as well, and continues his chuckling all the way to the helm. I turn back to Kai, giving him an exasperated look that never fails to make him smile. What was that you were going to say? I asked, curiosity momentarily grabbing hold of my tongue. He seems to ponder this as his gaze drifts over the water. Nothing I haven't said before. And that is the only answer he offers before extending a hand to me. Now put me to work. These books need to dry before you read one to me tonight. I huff in amusement before placing one of the damp covers in his waiting palm. Flipping open to a particularly crinkled page, Kai holds the book into the wind. I do the same, my teeth chattering beside him. You must look ridiculous leaning against the rail and holding literature in the air. I almost laugh at the odd picture we paint, but the view of rushing water around us steals my frigid breath away. The horizon stretches in every direction, nothing but a rippling blanket of blue. Do you ever wonder if there's anything else out there? I ask, my words nearly snatched away by the wind's cold fist. Kai flips to another page. Well, other than the myths? He shrugs. I'm not sure. The myths? His brows lift. Have you never heard of Aestrum, the birthplace of shadows and the death of great love? He recites this as though I should know the phrase by heart. My father, I nearly stumble over the word, now knowing the truth and mystery behind it, didn't waste his time teaching me myths. In fact, he barely had time to educate me on things that actually do exist. I finish with a pointed look at the prince. Of course. Yet he had time to read you a story about. He thumbs through several pages of the book between his fingers. A horse with fangs and. That's enough, I laugh, snatching the book from him. Shit, no wonder you're afraid of horses, Gray. I roll my eyes. You were saying about Astrum. Kai throws me a grin before flipping over another damp book. Well, many people believe Astrum existed long before Ilia. There they live in constant state between dawn and dusk, thanks to the separated lovers, the sun, Solus, and his moon, Luna. He continues, despite the skeptical look I give him. Shadows are precious there. They are a power that can be stolen. I startle when he snaps the book shut. You know what? I bet the captain has a copy. A hoarse laugh falls from my mouth. That's a book about this? There's a book about this? Kai's already set a steady pace toward the captain's quarters. Of course there is. Tori likely has one because every sailor does. They're always looking for the city, hoping they can be the first to find it. I shake my head at his back. This is absurd. You live in Ilia, home of elites, and you think this is absurd? I hum in agreement. It is the most I will ever do to acknowledge that he may be right. Before pushing through the double doors that lead to our rooms, Kai turns to face me. It's called Shadow and Soul. The corner of his mouth twitches, and I'm looking forward to hearing you read it tonight. Chapter 29. Kai. My chest rises and falls beneath her back. Peyton sits between my legs, atop the bed, her spine pressed against my beating heart. I can feel every vibration of her soothing voice as she reads a piece of her past self to me. It's no wonder she grew up to be so formidable if the woman in these stories helped raise her. They are fearless, their stories thrilling. She tore through Shadow and Soul, despite claiming it was only to appease me. A terrible defense, seeing as she would never do anything that she didn't really want to do. So, her disguised interest in the tale had us reading long into the night. We spent longer still, discussing the story after she snapped the book shut, unable to contain her annoyance at wanting more. Now, she reads yet another one of her own books, and I'm more than content to listen to the words falling from those familiar lips. I wrap an arm around her waist, letting my eyes flutter shut. This is how we occupied ourselves over the last 2 days. It has become our distraction during the never-ending storm that is the shallows. The sea has yet to stop raging since early yesterday morning, and with night now falling on our fourth day at sea, Peyton has nearly read me 3 books. The ship grows more nauseating with each violent roll and dip. In fact, when I'm not in the presence of Pay, I can likely be found emptying the contents of my stomach over the boat's railing. But it's her voice that seems to keep the stale biscuits and salty beef down. The lantern on my bedside table teeters on the edge, readying to careen towards the wet floor after a particularly rough rocking of the ship. My free hand reaches out to steady it at the same moment Peyton quiets. What? I ask, clutching her closely when lightning flashes into the room. That was the end of the chapter. I rest my chin against her shoulder, pointing to the page. Well, there is another one beside it, so go on. Kai, she laughs out my name, and I wonder if she knows what it does to me. It's getting late. I tilt my head to study her profile. Are you implying that you're tired? Of you? She smiles. Very. My mouth twists. If you're going to continuously lie about wanting me, at least try to make it believable. You know, she says calmly, there's still plenty of time for me to throw you overboard. See, I knew you couldn't go more than a couple days without threatening me. She turns to face me then, folding her legs so they rest against mine. Because I know how much you like it. How very thoughtful of you. Thunder shakes the very bed we sit on, while waves pound against the ship. She presses a startled hand on my thigh, fingernails digging into the flesh beneath my pants. I can still see the terror that flashes in her gaze, but it's lessened into something far more tolerable. Something like numbness. Without a story to distract her, without words to form on the lips she's chewing with worry, Peyton fiddles with the steel ring on her thumb. I should get back to my room. I tilt my head. And why is that? Because, she sighs. The crew has already seen enough to gossip about when we get back to Ilya. She flinches at the sudden flash of lightning. If we make it back, all the more reason to stay with me tonight. She untangles her legs from mine and slides from the cot. Still not convinced. And if I said please? She stills beside the bed, her body swaying with the rolling waves. Pei's eyes meet mine, and suddenly I'm back in the palace, back to that night when I begged her to stay with me after watching her die in my nightmare. I'm reliving that moment, only this time it's my own selfish desires that has me needing her beside me. Swallowing, she crosses her arms. Well, go on then. I chuckle at her insistence before standing up right as the ship bucks violently. Caught off guard, Peyton comes careening towards me with a gasp. I catch her against my chest, feel her body melt against mine. My head dips until our noses brush. Stay with me, please. Her head shakes, but she's wearing a smile. I nudge her nose again as I murmur, my pretty, pretty Pei. She laughs breathlessly. Stay with me. I press my forehead to her own. Stay with me. Stay with me. Fine, she laughs out the word while offering a gentle flick to the tip of my nose. Fine, I'll stay. I smile for her, only her, always her. I was prepared to plead. She gives me a look. You would not. Oh, darling, I would do so much worse if you asked. I tuck a strand of her hair behind her ear with a smile. Or, even more difficult, so much better. You know, she says slowly, you're not nearly as terrifying as you seem. Not to you. Never to you. I sit down beside her, feeling the ship rock viciously all around us. She looks at me, eyes as bright as the sea itself. I stare into them, memorizing the multitude of hues they hold in the flickering lantern light. My favorite color is a shade of her, a silver of the vibrance she exudes. And I'll gladly drown, gladly burn, gladly fall into those blue eyes until the day she looks at me for the last time. Don't look at me like that, she breathes. My lips twitch. This is the only way I've ever looked at you, darling. Her smile grows uncharacteristically timid. I lean forward, grabbing one book to flip deftly through the pages. Well, you might as well keep reading since you're here. So that's why you wanted me to stay. Her scoff is accompanied by a shake of her head. So I'll read to you. Among other reasons, she hits me with the pillow, including your wonderful company. You're unbelievable, Azure. My eyes flick to the dimly lit bed we occupy. Not the first time I've been told that in a setting like this. The pillow collides with my face, muffling her laugh behind it. I'm jolted awake to the rumbling of thunder. I lift my head off the pillow to shit. Pain pounds beneath my skull, growing sharper by the second. I vaguely wonder if my temple had met the bedside table during the night to cause this current throbbing. My head feels heavy as I turn to face her. Dull moonlight creeps over Peyton to mingle with her silver hair. It's fanned across the pillow, surrounding the placid face she wears in sleep. The covers have been kicked down below her feet, and I'm shocked to see she isn't shivering without them. My head aches as I sit up to grab the forgotten quilt. I'm about to throw it over her when I lean in close, my mouth mere inches from meeting her forehead. I stop suddenly, my eyes scanning her face, the bridge of her nose. There can't be more than 10. I jerk back, staring at the body beside me. This is not my Pei. I still my mind and focus on the distant thrum of powers beneath my skin. Flash, tele, hydro, and that is when I feel it, close and strong and to blame for this. Staring at those 10 freckles, I throw the blanket over her. It meets nothing but air as Peyton's body vanishes. Illusion. I jump from the bed, my pounding head clearing enough to realize that I have been drugged. Also, someone could rip her from my bed. Boots are suddenly on my feet before I'm buckling a sword around my waist. I shove open the door and do the same to those waiting at the end of the hall. It's as though I've stepped out into the sea itself. Wind whips at my thin shirt, instantly numbing every inch of me. Water pours from the sky to pelt my skin and soak me to the bone. I can barely keep my footing on the drenched deck as waves continually crash over the railing. The ship groans with each dip of the water, leaving me swaying like a drunk as I try to keep my balance. I stride out further onto the deck, struggling to see anything through sheets of rain. Where is she? I shout the words into the storm, hoping the whipping wind will carry them through the scattered crew members. It is the sea that responds with a towering wave, drawing my attention to the far end of the boat. I squint through the rain, watching water curl over the railing to drench the three figures huddled there. The illusionist's ability burns hot beneath my skin, growing stronger with every step I take towards the group of men. I feel for the other powers, finding the telly and Gust awaiting me. My heart beats wildly against my soaking shirt as I stride towards them. When the ship pitches violently, I drop to a knee until I'm able to get my feet beneath me. Then men grow closer, clearer against the rain. The three of them. No, not three. The world goes quiet. The storm fades. Lightning dulls. There are four figures beside that railing. One of them is gagged and bound, her arms tucked tightly behind her back. She still wears that green vest, having fallen asleep with the comfort wrapped around her. The men have her raised in the air, two of them clutching her roped ankles while the other sinks his fingers into her shoulders. I found her. Lifting Peyton toward the rail, they grin as she thrashes in their hold, desperately trying to free herself, and something snaps in me at the sight. I unleash that piece of myself that father carved into me, that lethal silver sliver of darkness he once commanded at will, having known it by name, created it in the depths of his dungeons in every one of my fears, in the shadowed home with my sword through an innocent man's chest. It is a piece of death himself that lives within me, and now I command it. I grip the telly's power in my hand, feeling the ability course through me. My steps don't falter as I slow. Nor does my soul repent for what I'm about to do to theirs. With little more than vengeful thought, I throw the Gust over the ship's edge. It's a lazy toss that has his head cracking against the wood before he's plummeting into icy water. After watching a wave swallow their friend, the other two men whip around to find me steadily striding towards them. Peyton's legs drop to the ground, her frantic gaze widening when it lands on me. The men react the same, though it's fear filling their eyes, not relief, and I smile at it. Peyton struggles against the illusionist's grip while the telly steps toward me. Even through the pouring rain, I recognize his blurry face. This is one of the men who was watching Peyton dance that first night on the ship. He throws out a strand of power, wrapping it around my neck. It feels as though a phantom noose has been knotted against my throat, squeezing hard enough to have black creeping in the corners of my vision. He's choking me with his ability. Pathetic. All that power, and this is how he thinks I'll meet my end? I can no longer breathe, but I've faced far worse with my own father. Closing the distance between us, I throw a punch at his face, and when he dodges like I knew he would, it's already too late. My left hand is drawing my sword from its sheath and slicing the blade across his stomach with one swift movement. His choking hold on my throat drops at the same moment he does. I suck in a breath before rolling my tight neck. The man sprawls onto the wood before me, blood gushing from the deep gash, even as water pelts the wound. A stream of scarlet quickly steeps out from beneath him, staining the deck before the rain can wash it away. I step over his body, not offering him another glance. Pushing dripping hair from my brow, I turn back to Peyton and the illusionist. With his eyes locked on mine, he lifts her bound body into his arms. The tip of my blade is pressed to his heart within the next beat of it. I shake my head, panting. Put her down, and I won't make you suffer. He holds my gaze, body rigid beneath my blade. I'll die before seeing an ordinary sit on Ilya's throne. My sword plunges into his heart at the same moment he throws Peyton over the railing. A scream rips from my throat, lost in the raging storm. I don't think, I don't breathe, I don't hesitate to leave my sword buried in the sailor and dive toward the railing. She's falling to her death. The gag has slipped from her mouth to allow a chilling scream. Those blue eyes are locked on mine as she plummets further and further, and the telly's power grows weak beneath my skin. He's barely alive, but barely is all I need. Tugging at that power, I hurl it toward her bound body. The ability grows taut, like an invisible rope has wrapped itself around her waist. I grit my teeth as her falling weight slams against my mind, and her body hangs suspended above the waves. Her head falls back, silver hair brushing the hungry water awaiting her. I strain to lift her body toward me, even as piercing pain cuts through my mind. When the ship threatens to tip from a vengeful wave, I'm nearly thrown over the splintered railing. Urging myself to focus, I will her toward me, commanding my tired mind to obey. A wave crashes over the ship, soaking Peyton's hanging body before meeting my own. I force the water The force of the water nearly pulls her down, but I fight to keep her rising upward. Grunting against the pain in my head, I reach toward her, stretching my dripping arms over the rail. Her head lifts in, our eyes locking in a moment that even time cannot contain. She stares at me with a sort of fear I've never seen her wear, and maybe I'm looking at her the same, like nothing has ever terrified me more than losing her. And that is when the telly's power flickers and dies beneath my skin.